much every time we ask, they say yes, and I love that, Lord, and I would just pray that you would bless the church and its congregation, Lord, and I pray, Lord, for this country. I pray that you would help us protect its borders, help us protect its citizens, Lord, help us protect its freedoms and its liberties. And God, tonight, I pray a special blessing over our speakers, Lord, that they would come up here and speak boldly and clearly, and that we would all leave more informed and prepared to be engaged in this season of our history. Lord, we love you, and we ask all these things in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Thanks. As a group that we formed out here in Lake Travis, we tried to, Scott told me to stay over here. This is the microphone. We formed it out here in Lake Travis. We try to, our goal is to register voters that aren't registered, new movers, people who've never voted before. I don't know if you know, but I ran in 2020 and I would knock doors, and people would tell me that the first time, people my age would tell me the first time they ever voted was when Trump ran for office in 2016. So there are people our age, I know not everybody in this room is my age, but I'm just going to say our age collectively that don't even vote, have never voted. So our goals are to register voters, inform voters so that they are an informed voter, they know the issues, they know the candidates, they know who works for us, who doesn't work for us, and then ask those same people to get engaged in the community, whether that mean run for office, be a donor, be a door knocker, tell other people how to vote. I know that sounds maybe a little crazy, but once you're informed and once you're active in the community, people will start asking you who they should vote for. And so we want to cultivate influencers who help other people know who to vote for. And then lastly, we want people to vote. So a lot of people are registered, they're informed, they're engaged, and then they get lazy. I don't know what happens. They go out of town, they forget, I don't know what happens. So we also need everybody to vote. Don't be discouraged. I know a lot of people in this room, including myself, sometimes think that our votes don't count. But always remember that God is the victor. We have to vote. We have to go out and vote. And then if they're going to steal it, make them steal it. Because there is a judgment day one day. So that's how I feel about it. So we have to vote. So those are the things that we really try to cultivate in every citizen in this community. As most of you know, Travis County is supposedly, allegedly blue. Sometimes I don't believe it because we're on the red corner, and I'm like, is that true? I don't know. But we are determined to keep what I call Lake Travis ISD boundary. So that's everything from Hudson Bend to Hamilton Pool Road to out in Spicewood, to keep the LTISD boundary red. Red, red, red. Voting, engaged, informed, and red. So that's the goal. That's what we try to do. That's a summary of what I just said. Next. What else?
You skipped what we do with the money that we raise.
Okay. So we do raise money. It's not like, for me, it's not the primary thing we do, but we do have an annual fundraiser that's coming up on November 4th. We do occasionally ask people for money. And what we do with that money is we do text messages during elections for either for an issue, like we were anti-bond, we're anti-school bond, we'll be anti-school bond this November. So we'll do text messages about the bond, telling people about that. We also made signs. We made signs for our conservative school board members when they ran. We also made signs, anti-bond signs. What else? We also always participate in the City of Lakeway Parade because we actually have gotten a lot of new members just from people seeing us in the parade. So those are the few things that we spend money on, but it's always to promote and push conservative causes. Right now we're really focusing on trying to get Lake Travis ISD to take out all of the pornographic books, and they also have 126 books on how minors can change their gender. A lot of people don't think that's happening a lot of people don't think those books are in Lake Travis ISD, and they are. They're in every school district for the most part. So that's something that we've been really focusing on. We go to all the school board meetings. We read a nasty book sometimes. We do whatever we have to kind of pressure the school board to do the right thing. We'll be doing a Vote No campaign on the school board or the bond It's the one bond that didn't pass last November. They were asking for 43 million. Now, no, 93 million. Now they're asking for the same things, but now they're asking for 143 million. So we defeated it. We were expecting and hoping for a more fiscal conservative number, and they came back and added 50 million. So it's sort of like to us, but we're gonna push back. We'll do rally. So we up on across from, what's the pizza place? Help me. Craigos. Across from Craigos. If you ever see a display of people, that's us. So we always buy flags, whatever's going on, whether it be anti-Biden or pro-America or whatever's going on, that's us. And if you get our emails, you'll always get notice of those, and we love for you to join us, and it's pretty fun. Most people in the community are very for us. You know, they're honking and waving, and then we have the occasional crazy, but we've filled all of our precinct. So if you don't know, every county is split up into precincts, voting precincts, depending on your population. So our group has made sure that every precinct chair position within LTISD boundary is filled and active and participating. So that's been huge. We always encourage people to work the elections. If you don't know, the November election will just have the constitutional amendments and the Lake Travis bond. It's actually a good election to kind of get your feet wet. If you've never worked an election, you might consider volunteering. Travis County usually tries to push out the Republicans, but because there's not any candidate races on this ballot, they might be more welcoming to volunteers. So I encourage volunteering for the elections in November. We do voter registration. We campaign for city council, school board. We always host a candidate forum here before the May election for the local elections for the city and the school board. Love for you guys to come. This year we're doing our third annual fundraiser on November 4th. There's a flyer out there. It's also on our website. And we're going to have a speaker and a band and food. And for me, the most fun thing about it is everybody thinks like you. Everybody in attendance is going to be just like you. So it's sort of like a Patriot party. It's pretty fun. And we're doing this here at Iron Wolf Distillery because we outgrew Spicewood Vineyards, although they were great hosts. And we do guns and silver, and we have people donate trips, and we do raffle tickets and silent auction items, and it's really, really fun. So I encourage everybody to come and bring a friend. It's cheaper to bring a friend. The price goes down if you bring a friend. All right, what else? Okay, so tonight, this whole event or night was sparked by Senator Bob Hall called me and asked me, and he's in attendance tonight. He's our most conservative. He's out of Dallas. He is our most conservative senator that serves in the Texas legislature, so we love him. Anyway, he contacted us about a month ago, asked us if we would be interested in hosting these two ladies and this issue, and I said, of course, I think the community will love it, and leave here more informed and more prepared. So, without further ado, come on, girls.
We get your attention? Anybody about to pass out? They saw the white coat and white coat phobia?
Blood pressure goes up.
That's right. Well, we just want you to know that you're probably going to pay more attention because we are wearing these white coats.
Well, we have authority.
We are the experts.
Have this on. We know more than you,
So,
even though you have lived in your body longer than I have. I have this coat, which I got off Amazon.
you can get it too. It's on Amazon.
Yes.
But it does make you more authoritative. And, nobody should question anything
No,
that we say
Trust
because
us.
of this.
trust us.
Right.
We know everything.
Everything.
Everything. We're just beneath. What are
God.
they? Gods.
God.
Just beneath.
So,
So we know.
now that we got your attention,
Yes. Well,
it's not real. It's
yeah.
not true.
You're not going to hear the truth from the white coats. You're going to hear the truth
From two girls in t-shirts.
And I'd like to say that there are some people that wear this coat who deserve to wear this coat. That
Right.
they actually are out there. One I know in particular, her name is Dr. Mary Bowden. She is fighting every day for her patients and saving their lives. And because she's doing that, she's being attacked relentlessly. So the Bible said that, Jesus said that because of my name, you will be persecuted. So if you're not getting persecuted at this point,
You're kind of slacking.
yeah. We want to start with the
Yeah,
first slide.
first slide. Sure,
Oh,
sure.
yes.
Let's do that first. You're here to learn about a document that'll probably save your life and prevent anything happening to you in a hospital that you don't want happening to you. And that's a big old problem in hospitals right now. Doctors, the people in the white coat, are just doing
They're
whatever they
drug
want.
reps. They're not doctors anymore. They're drug reps.
Right.
50 years in there.
This might be a good time also to say, hold your questions till the end.
Well, we have a lot of information, and probably I would say 95% of your questions are going to be answered throughout this. But that 5%, just hold on to that 5%. And then at the end, we are going to
Let it
answer.
loose.
Yeah,
Let it
let her
rip
rip.
at the end. But not until then, because we have a lot of stuff
You
to
got
get
a
through.
lot of information.
You
But
have not heard this anywhere else before, unless you've listened to maybe Dr. Mercola's interview with us. Has anybody seen that? Just a
Yes.
few? Okay, well then this will be new for most of you. We're just gonna wait just a second until
Okay.
everybody gets it. Or do you wanna go ahead and roll the slide?
yeah, we can actually start
Okay.
rolling. I'm going to go to slide 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you might have to just hit to make it play. There you go.
Laura, this is Joyce in Salt Lake City. I'm rushing to the hospital because in a conference call with Kayla, that nasty doctor who was nasty to us from the very first, she said that Frank is on comfort care. I said, that's the first I heard of this. Supposedly, he hasn't had dialysis or food since Monday, but I think they did it before. That's why they haven't been talking to me. My husband, even his pastor who wanted to pray with him Monday night, and now they're killing him.
Okay, we have another one. So next slide.
Hi, I'm on medical center. I see you. 4th floor. I need help. They have me struck down and dead, and trying to give me medicine, oxygen, and other whatever against my will. I don't want to get up. I need help. And they cut the lines, and I saw through. You just help. Okay. Call. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, these are actual patients. These are patients that Laura's worked with, that we get calls every day. She gets calls she's been at my house from morning until driving down here. We've been talking to patient after patient after patient, listening to this. And that's why it's so important for you to get this information now, before there's an emergency, because we don't want a situation like you just heard. Somebody trying to reach out when the ball is in their court.
Right.
We don't want that anymore. But this is why we're here. We're gonna play Dr. Mercola's interview real quick, a little clip from that.
Snippet.
Well, to say I have a treat for you this week is a profoundly serious understatement. I have something that will literally, that has the absolute potential to save not only your life, but the life of almost every single person you know and love. Best of all, it doesn't cost anything. It's free. It's a simple strategy that can protect you and insulate you from any of the damage that the hospitals can do. This document was developed as a revision of the Jehovah's Witness, well-known Jehovah's Witness capacity to refuse blood donations when they're in the hospital. Well-respected, non-controversial, no one gives them any hard work. But this legal document delivered in a specific way can absolutely, with virtually 100% confidence, make sure that you are never given anything against your will in the hospital. This has to be done before you get in the hospital. Otherwise, it won't work. So, amazing information. I can assure you, you have never seen anything like this before, so you need to share it far and wide. Everyone needs to do this.
This is novel, this is new. This definitely puts them on notice. We want people to be safe. We want them to know that they need to do this before there's a problem. You're gonna need to get involved in your own health care. Just like you were saying, Dr. Mercola, do everything you can to prevent yourself from even having to go.
That's the first
That's
one.
number one.
You don't want to be in the hospital.
But there are those cases. I know that there are people going to the hospital regardless.
And you've got this legal protection, even if you implemented some COVID. I mean, you could have circumvented this with simple things that they cannot violate. You cannot violate without serious legal consequences.
Jehovah's Witness faith has made a precedent for this.
And in COVID-19, they didn't change the course and give Jehovah's Witnesses blood transfusion. They did not do that.
What we've experienced using these documents is that a complete change in the attending physician from being aggressive and maybe trying to push you to
Arrogant, authoritative,
Right.
tyrannical.
to being very helpful and efficient. And once they receive these documents, they just have a 180.
I would recommend, for those who have a regular spiritual practice and involved in the spiritual community and go to church,
Yes,
synagogue, that they share this with that community.
exactly.
Because everyone in that community needs this information. This needs to spread like a wildfire. There's no question. There's no cost. Why would there be reluctance to do this? And this is a simple strategy.
Okay, we're going to do a quick skit here. I am going to be a patient, and obviously,
I'm the expert.
We know she is. Okay, so I'm in the hospital. I'm familiar with it. I'm having trouble breathing, but I have my documentation ready. So I'm calling my emergency contact. Hey, Shannon, I'm in the hospital. I'm at Austin Medical Memorial. Remember those documents that I have all done? I need you to follow the instructions on there and mail them as soon as possible. I can't talk much. I'm having trouble breathing. Just follow the instructions, please. Can you do that? Okay, thank you. The doctor's coming in. I'll talk to you in a minute.
Greta,
Yes.
I'm Dr. Jekyll. Looks like you've got some COVID, and we're gonna get you fixed up, all right? We're gonna get you started on remdesivir.
Okay. Before you start, I have some documents here that I'd like to give you.
Yeah, okay.
No, these are very important documents.
Yeah, we already had you sign the general consent. So
No,
it's
well,
fine.
these are specific,
I don't need that.
but
I don't even know what that is. I don't need it.
I can explain it to you.
It's all right. I don't really, you're not gonna explain anything to me. That's all right. Patient is combative, argumentative, might have a personality disorder.
I need to give you these documents, and I need to explain them to you.
It's just ridiculous.
Okay, so what that is that's called my current wishes and current consent. And if I can show you what exactly I
Yeah.
do not consent to, and
Yeah.
no,
Just
no, that
We
needs
need to get you started.
that needs to
You're
go
gonna
into-
die. You're gonna die if we don't get this remdesivir in you right now.
I don't want.
Do you understand? Do you wanna die?
I don't want remdesivir.
Yeah, I don't think you know. How many years medical school have you been to, Greta, Miss Crawford?
I'm not. I want to explain those documents. I don't want remdesivir. Please, no remdesivir.
I think you don't know what you're saying.
I
You
do.
don't know what we do here. We're here to fix you up. We've been doing this to everybody.
I don't want it. I do not want it.
Or what is it that, just hurry up, come on, we need
Well,
to get going.
this is what my wishes are. And I want them in the medical record. They are going to explain what I do not consent to and what I do consent to. They're very specific on here, and we can go through each one, and you can see it.
Yeah, I got a lot of people here to take care of. You're not the only one in the hospital, so just speed it up. What is it?
Okay, well, first off, I need informed consent for every single medication or treatment you give me, which is listed here. And that's not just telling me the names of the medication. I need to know the risks, the benefits, the reasonable alternatives, and then I need time to decide on whether I want you to give that medication. Right now, I know, I have here, no remdesivir. I don't want remdesivir. And I'm not vaccinated, and I don't want the COVID vaccine. I have that
Well, you need the
checked.
COVID vaccine. You wouldn't be here
No,
if
this
you
is,
had the COVID
this
vaccine.
is signed and notarized, and it needs to go into my medical record.
Signed?
Yes, it's already been signed, notarized.
Oh,
You need to be made familiar with every single,
I don't know.
I know, you need to put it in my medical record, and you need to follow every single thing on there.
And if I don't,
If you don't, you're gonna have consequences. It says it on there, you can read them.
it'll be a medical board complaint.
Yes,
Huh.
but it's gonna be more, because these are my wishes, and if you go against them, it's going to be intentional toward.
We have a protocol we gotta do.
I don't want your protocol.
Well, okay, well,
Uh-huh.
all right, I guess it says, all right, whatever.
Are you gonna put those in my medical records?
Yeah, right.
Are you?
Yes, I'll put them in your record.
Okay, so you're definitely gonna, I also need access to my online medical record right now.
Nurse, we don't need that remdesivir, just,
No, I don't want remdesivir. No, I heard you tell the nurse. I've got good hearing.
all right, just, not right now. We're not doing remdesivir right now.
Okay.
Just cancel that order.
Well, if you don't wanna put it in my medical record, that's fine. Your CEO is going to get legally served these documents within the next hour.
Okay,
He's
just
gonna
cancel
make
the
sure-
remdesivir. No remdesivir. No shot.
Yeah, he's gonna make sure that they're in my medical record.
Okay,
So if
okay,
you don't
fine.
wanna put them in
That's
there,
fine, that's
he's
fine.
gonna.
That's fine. And see, as you can see, that works out a little bit better than just saying no. She said she didn't want something until it was in writing, until it was documented, like a contract. It didn't matter to me, because I'm an arrogant doctor. And nothing seems to penetrate that COVID shielding as far as consequence, except something that's intentional toward a battery, and that's criminal. And so, by her having this in writing, it got my attention. It made my butt go like that, because even though my building, the hospital, tells me I've got to do a certain protocol because they make a certain amount of money, and that's how they get paid, and I could possibly lose my privileges, I don't want to lose my license. And you can bet if I go to prison, I probably don't get to play doctor anymore. So, this is why we're here today.
Yeah, you can click the slide. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Greta Crawford. I'm the founder of ProtocolKills.com. In August of 2021, I had to actually go to the hospital, which is something I did not want to do. My family all got COVID. I did what mothers do, took care of the kids, took care of my husband. I would run 3 miles every day, so I was in great health. I was taking my vitamins and supplements, and I was going to be fine. My body reacted differently than the rest of my family. And it came to a point where I started coughing up blood clots. And I knew, because my father had died of lung cancer, that's not good. And so I went to my local doctor, and in the office, I said, I know my husband has COVID, and, I have it. And they came out with the swab, and I said, I will blow a booger on it. Because if you can catch it from 6 feet away, you don't have to stick it 6 feet up my nose. And they were okay with that. They let me do that. Sure enough, I tested positive for COVID, pneumonia, and the flu. And in the office, I'm coughing up blood clots. And I said, don't you think this is bad? Oh, yeah, well, we're going to give you some medicine. So they gave me a handful of medicines, sent me back home. Apparently, my oxygen was fine and all that. Well, a few more days later, I'm having trouble breathing. And I get a pulse oximeter, and my oxygen is down to 66%. And I told my husband, I'm going to die. I have to get to the emergency room. At that point, there was nothing else I could do. I had to go. And I wouldn't be here today had I not gone, which is ironic because then they tried to kill me when I was there. So once I got to the hospital, they immediately locked out my husband. He was in the parking lot for about 4 hours until he just ended up going home, because we have kids at home, and he wanted to make sure they were okay. And I was feeling terrible. I wasn't sure what I signed or if I signed something. I know I was asked so many times, are you vaccinated? Are you vaccinated? I told them no. After I got oxygen in my system and I started breathing again, I thought, okay, I'm gonna go home. They're gonna send me home with some oxygen, maybe some blood thinners. So I was getting ready to go home. I said, oh no, we're gonna give you this COVID medication. And I had done my research. I knew about the ventilators, they were killing people. I knew about that COVID vaccine. I'd gone into the VAERS report and searched it up. So it's not like I was totally ignorant, but I'd never heard of this COVID medication, is what they called it. So I assumed, well, it must be a steroid, because steroids have really been helping with the inflammation. So I thought, okay, yeah, steroid, that's great. And then he said remdesivir, and I said, I've never heard of that steroid. But right before he went to give me this COVID medication, he said, are you vaccinated? And I thought, here we go again. I said, no, I'm not vaccinated. I said, I don't believe in experimental drugs. I'm not a lab rat. And at that point, he proceeded to inject me with an experimental drug. Yeah, called remdesivir. And from that point on, I went downhill like never before. I'd had COVID for almost 2.5, almost 3 weeks, and I'd never had symptoms like I had after remdesivir, which they kept saying, it's COVID, it's COVID. And my hands and feet began to swell, huge. And the doctor came in, and I said, why are my hands and feet swelling? And he said, oh, he looked down at the ground, he says, we don't know, COVID's strange. Then he walked out the door. And I was like, COVID's strange? COVID's strange? That's not an answer, especially when you know all this medical terminology that you like to spill out. COVID's strange, and you let, and I thought, that's strange. And then one thing happened after another. I had just countless problems. I had white blood cell count shot up to dangerously high levels. I had vomiting. I had a blood clot occur in my leg that they were worried about going to my heart. I had, on the last 2 nights, I had them coming in screaming and hollering at me, wake up, wake up. They were ready to do CPR on me. My heart rate had dropped to 30 beats per minute. And then they had to hook me up with all these monitors to figure out what was wrong. And all of this stuff is happening. Every night after I received remdesivir, which was after visiting hours, because luckily in Texas we can have at least one person with us, and it was my husband at the time, so he witnessed all this, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Who made that happen?
Oh, I think somebody really special. Yeah.
Bob Hall.
So, but they always gave me this remdesivir after 10 o'clock. And I remember asking them, why are you giving me this at 10 o'clock at night? I've never gotten medicine at 10 o'clock at night. It's doctor's orders.
It works at 10 o'clock
I
only.
guess so. And I would get so ill afterward, just so ill. The pain is indescribable. My lungs filled with fluid completely. It felt like a 10,000 knives stabbing me from within, and there was no comfortable situation. I just remember being in so much pain, and I remember praying, Lord, take this pain away from me. And then I said, wait a minute, that could mean me dying. I said, let me change that prayer real quick, Lord. I said, Lord, your will be done. I said, if I die, I will serve you in heaven. I said, if I live, I will do your will here on earth. It's your decision, whatever that may be, but I'm putting my complete faith in you. And from that point on, I had zero fear. Zero fear. They would come in and they would tell me a new symptom, and I was like, I don't care. You know, they would tell me basically you're dying every day, and I don't care. I absolutely do not care. That's when I knew that faith and fear cannot occupy the same space. One will root out the other. And you have to decide which one to fill yourself and then act accordingly. And that's the only way we can live. No more fear. And that's what happened to me, and I was really at peace with it. I did have a doctor. She was my pulmonologist. She never assessed me physically one time. She came in and harassed me every single day. You need to be vaccinated. Your husband needs to be vaccinated. Your kids need to be vaccinated. Everybody needs to be. I said, I don't need to be vaccinated. I have COVID. I said, I already have natural immunity. I have it. It's 300 times more powerful than any man-made vaccine. I don't need it. Yes, you need it. You're going to get COVID again, and when you come back, it's going to be worse, and we're going to put you on a ventilator, and you're going to die. Do you want that?
She's a life coach, by the way. So positive.
And she was right. They were going to put me on a ventilator, and I was going to die. And I knew about the ventilators. And I said, let me ask you something. I said, you know for a fact that these ventilators are killing your patients. Why would you put them on a ventilator? And she said, well, we have to do what the patient requests. Like there's a line saying, save that one for me. You know, I want that one over there. I can't wait to be on life support. No one's requesting to be put on a ventilator. And I said, well, since you're taking requests, I'm requesting ivermectin and HCQ. Oh, no, we can't do that. That's not approved. I said, so you're telling me you'll give your patient a treatment that you know for a fact will kill them because it's approved, but you will not give them a treatment that could possibly save their lives because it's not approved for your protocol. And she got mad and left the room. Every day she'd get mad and leave the room. She'd come in, she'd fight with me, and I'm a fighter. Because you hadn't found out, I'm a fighter. And we would have this fight back and forth. And then I would get tired because I'm on oxygen at this time. And I'd point to my husband and say, take it away. Because I taught him all this information. And then I was telling him, she kept saying, the data shows that 80% of the patients in the ICU are unvaxxed and they're dying. And I said, the data shows that this vaccine, from the VAERS report itself, is showing that it is more deadly and has more side effects than the previous 10 years vaccines combined. And this was early on when it came out. I said, it's the worst vaccine on the planet. It's in the VAERS report. What's the VAERS report? I said, what's the VAERS? You don't know what VAERS is? And she says, no, I've never heard of that. And I said, you're trying to tell me data and you don't even know where to go to get the data. Well, I'm telling you what's in our ICU. I said, your ICU doesn't make up the whole population of this country, of the world. I said, you can't go based off your ICU. Obviously, I didn't trust him. And then she stopped, and she looked at me, and she looked at my husband, and she said, I can tell you and your husband are very well educated. I thought, you're not here to judge my educational, you're not assessing my educational level. You're here for my health. And then I thought, something's not right here. You know, why is she worried about my educational level? Why is she trying to push something that I'm giving her facts about and she doesn't know where to get? Something was off. But again, I didn't know about remdesivir. I didn't know I was actually being poisoned at the time. But I think what little bit of knowledge I had about the ventilator, me being authoritative and fighting back, And my husband, 6'4", ex-college football player, works out every day. He was sort of a factor too. And God. I think all those things combined kept them at bay. So they tried to do as much as they could, and they don't get me wrong, it did damage. I mean, it did damage, but God healed it. And the last day, they did nothing for me. They didn't give me anything. And they told me at 7 o'clock in the morning, they said, "You're going to be discharged today." I said, "Great." And so I waited, and 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 I waited until about 8 p.m. that night. And I said, I just had a breaking point. And so I hit the call nurse button, and my husband, this night, he wasn't told to leave, which was weird, because they weren't giving me remdesivir. They'd already given me 5 rounds of it. And so I hit that call button. The nurse, he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm calling the nurse." Nurse comes in. I said, "You have 5 minutes to get my documents, to get my oxygen, to get whatever you need to get, because there's a chair in the corner, it's on wheels, and in 5 minutes, I'm gonna be in that chair, and he's gonna be pushing me out the door." And she laughed, and I said, "Watch this." And I lifted up my shirt, and I started pulling off cords left and right. And then they had to put this port into my artery because they couldn't get blood from my veins. I did not know it was going directly into my artery, okay? I did not know that I could bleed to death by pulling it out, but I didn't care. I was pulling that thing out. And I told him, I said, "If you're not back in 5 minutes, this is coming out." Her eyes got big as saucer, and she took off running. I mean, sprinting. Within 5 minutes, they had my documents, they had a wheelchair, they had oxygen, they were all gowned up to remove that. It was amazing. That's all it took. And I thought, I should have done this hours ago. I just didn't, but I'd had enough. And once I got home, that's when more suffering continued. Because at this point, my whole body's poisoned. I did not sleep at night. When I did sleep, I had to sleep sitting straight up with pillows propped on either side of me. I was in so much pain. I can't explain the pain. It would never subside. I would walk around my couch trying to run from the pain, but really that's what everybody should be doing when they have their lungs filled with fluid, is walking. That's the best. God was healing me and I didn't even know it. I was just trying to run from this pain. I remember being on oxygen for the first time and getting into the shower, and I took the oxygen off because for some reason I thought you couldn't shower with oxygen. I don't know. And I was all soaped up, and I got to the point where I was like, I can't do it. And my husband was there. He was constantly watching me. I said, I have to lay down. I have to get out. And so he picked me up basically off the shower floor full of soap, laid me on the bed. I couldn't even finish rinsing off. I had to work my way back. I remember counting tiles. I made it 5 tiles today and 5 tiles back without oxygen. I remember counting the squares on the sidewalk. I made it, 4 sidewalk squares today. I didn't drive for months. I couldn't cook. I had to depend on my neighbors. I had to depend on my husband, my kids. I was a burden to my family when I went from being the one taking care of them to being the one in need. And I could have avoided all that had I known about remdesivir, had known how to assert my rights, but these documents weren't created at that time. So I think God wanted me to experience this, to be here now, and to help others who may have to face the same thing. But you don't have to go through this. You don't. Thanks to these documents, you don't have to do that. But in the process of all this, I wanted to warn everybody, so I created a website called protocolkills.com, and it has over 250 stories of people who've lost loved ones. I'm about one of 7 or so who survived out of the 250, and the rest, unfortunately, were murdered. And I provide all the information that I found about remdesivir, about the payouts, about everything. And through this website, I met Laura, and Laura was doing something amazing. She was rescuing people out of the hospital, and we got to talking back and forth. And I said, I don't charge. I do all of this for free.
I said, well, then you're my kind of person,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
neither do I.
Right. And so
And-
we'll let her explain a little bit about yourself. So
Okay.
you can click this slide again. It'll go to Laura.
So I started Hospital Hostage Hotline because I thought, there are so many people out there that are like, what do? I'm in the hospital. The doctors are giving me stuff I don't want. They're giving it to my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother. And they feel like they're hostages. They kept telling me that over and over again. So I said, I think I'll steal that. That's a good name, Hospital Hostage Hotline. And it's 888-C19-3637, easy to remember. And I started getting calls from all over the country, from coast to coast. People were needing help. But I want to give you guys some empowerment. There's nothing special about me. Matter of fact, I don't know if it's obvious, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. My background is far from that. The only thing I healed people with is laughter. I'm a comedian. I'm a producer of Four Funny Females in McKinney, Texas. For 15 years, we're best comedy troupe in Dallas, and we toured around Texas. But I stopped that right at the beginning of COVID, when I started learning about what's going on, and this is nuts. People are wearing masks and acting crazy. I mean, I am a comedian, but I have a few brain cells. I can figure out this isn't normal. And like, why are people acting this way? This is nuts. I started helping get the word out about an early effective treatment called budesonide. Anybody hear about that? My background's PR. I also, prior to COVID, created a bottle stopper with my son that Shark Tank was interested in. So my background is so weird. I shouldn't be up here, probably by most people's calculations. Like, what are you doing with this? But I'm telling you, anybody could have done this. I kept waiting for someone to do it. I kept thinking, why isn't somebody coming up with some place for somebody to get help as quick as calling a number, an 888 number? And so nobody did. So budesonide got out there, used my PR background, the way that I launched a bottle stopper around the world called wine condoms. Anybody hear about that? It rolls down the top of a bottle, kind of like, and you get it. Okay. It's that kind of church. So, I had success with that, and so I get asked to help get the word out about something that's a little bit more serious and a little bit more successful protecting people, which is budesonide, inhaled steroid that was reversing the symptoms within 2 to 3 days. And I was like, man, people need to know this. They need to know it in hospitals, because once they're in the hospital, this could get them out of the hospital. So anyway, it kind of evolved into this movement, this grassroots movement, and people kept thinking there's a big team behind this hotline. There must be just like a bank of people with phones dropping from the ceilings and a call center in India. No, just me with a bad accent. And so, it was working. I was working with people individually, and I had a nurse, I had some people that I would reach out to and say, okay, what about this medication? What about Presidex? What about, being over-oxygenated? What are they doing with the PEEP setting on ventilators and things like that? And so, I got an MD by proxy, and it probably will save your life better than the guys in the hospital. But anyway, as that's all going on, I met Greta, and those were 2 real calls. Unfortunately, one in April, she didn't even make it past leaving that message. That was the last time she was alive that I know about. And anyway, I met Greta through this because, you look for like-minded people that are doing something. Please do something. And you guys are those do something people because you're here tonight. But anyway, when Greta had all these sad stories, I'm like, man, these people, I was that squeaky wheel. I was jumping in on her message threads and saying, but you can do this. Did you know you could do that? Did you know you could fire your doctor? Did you know that you could transfer to another hospital? Did you know you can go into the ER and decide, see ya, and walk back out? Did you know that you can change your mind and walk back in? People didn't know this. They didn't know they could ask for stuff. They didn't know they could say, hell no, I'm not getting that. And they could. And it was the doctor's obligation to tell them the risk, the benefits, and the alternatives of everything. And they just were, they just didn't know. You've heard that saying, you don't know what you don't know. We were laughing about it on the way down here about sayings, what was it? what you don't know won't hurt you. I'm like,
Yes, it
that's
will.
the stupidest.
Definitely. It will hurt you.
You do need to know stuff, and so I'm glad you're here tonight. And anyway, so
Yeah.
that's how we teamed up.
Next slide.
Okay, and the reason we're here tonight, obviously, is to go over this, this groundbreaking, as you heard Dr. Mercola say, this has the ability to save, well, you didn't hear him say it in this slide, but later in the interview, he said it has the potential to save hundreds of thousands of millions of lives. That's a direct quote from Dr. Mercola. So I hope you guys really do it and share it. Not just do it for yourself, but share it with everybody you know. Because our insider, hospital insider that helped us develop this, knowing what we were doing, knew that if only 5 people walked into any given hospital, boom, it would blow it up. It would change the culture in that hospital, because it not only this, when a document this novel comes into the hospital where a patient's that empowered and has the potential of a bad doctor losing his license and maybe going to prison, you better believe doctors are talking about that in their break room, playing golf on the fairway. They're going to talk about it. So it's going to go out into their community, and then it's going to go all the way up to the board, the medical board, useless medical boards. Anyway.
But it starts first with the people.
Yes, so the only
with
way that's
you.
going to change is the people pushing up. I cannot stress that enough. It's not going to be a doctor validating this. No. It's like a good old boys club.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen that way. So you guys got to do it.
So, next slide.
So that's you.
Yeah. Okay, so we want to explain something really quick. A lot of people have been saying the hospitals are forcing this protocol on people. The hospitals. The hospital is a facility. That's where the doctors work. Okay, it's not a patient-hospital relationship. Okay, the hospital doesn't assess me. The hospital doesn't, go through my medical records. The doctor that works in that hospital, who uses the facility, she is the doctor that treats me. And we have a doctor-patient relationship at that point, which, by the way, the patient is a part of. It's not a dictatorship. It's a relationship where we give information back and forth. So this is so true that if you'll click one more time, when you sign the general consent, this is an example of one in Texas, it says independent physicians, period, independent physicians. I acknowledge that the physicians taking part in my care or providing a professional service do not work for that hospital. That the hospital is not responsible for their judgment or conduct. Yeah, that's really important. So, so they're even telling you when you sign the general consent, hey, that doctor's making the decisions. But yet, all we hear is it's the hospital pushing that protocol, and the doctors have no choice. Well, they do have a choice. They may lose their privileges at that hospital, and then they'll have to find another hospital, or they may have to work somewhere else, not in the hospital. They may have to do a little switch up on their careers, but
They didn't kill somebody.
how much is a life worth, For me, as a Christian, I would live under a bridge if I could save one life of a stranger. I would. I haven't had a job in 2 years, not because I can't get a job, it's because I'm doing this to help people, because God's called me to do this. And it's been a struggle, but I know God has me. And that's where faith comes in too. These doctors are not filled with faith, they're filled with fear of having to lose that comfort and finding a different job somewhere else. And so they just follow whatever the hospital tells them, and they're hollow threats. Because if they all did the same thing and said, no, we're the doctors, we're not gonna have this, and they all walked out, well, then you have a building called a hospital, and nothing's gonna go on. But you see what they chose to follow is fear. So, next slide, please. Now, we want to make sure that you understand. A lot of people have come and said, well, I have those documents. No, you don't have these documents. These are new. They're unlike any other document, okay? They said, I have them, they're called advanced directives. No. Advanced directives are when a patient cannot communicate. That's when they kick in. That's when you're on a ventilator, when you're unconscious. Something happens to you where your wishes come into place through your medical power of attorney. So you're not with it. You don't know what's going on. Now, our documents are caregiver consent documents. They are when you're conscious and you walk in.
Effective immediately.
Immediately when you walk through the door. So before, you were able to tell, no, doctor, I don't want that, and your wishes were respected. Well, it hasn't happened anymore.
Right.
They don't do that anymore. So we need it in writing. We need it in writing, and we need it done legally. So we're going to tell you how to get it in writing and how to get it served to the hospital so that it's in your medical record. Okay? Next slide. I'm going to click one more time. Not advanced directives. So there's 3 key elements to this document that make it unlike any other. First, it's in writing and it's your informed consent. You are telling the doctor what you do not consent to and what you do consent to, and it's listed there. And you have initials by each one. If you want to alter the document to your specific needs, you can do that. If you want to add something, we've provided a space to that. They're notarized, they're legally served, but it's in writing. The second aspect of it is your religious and spiritual beliefs. This is why we know it works. Not only because we've heard testimony from other people, it's been proven to work, and you saw what the doctor did when I told her, your CEO has it. That changed things a bit. But the religious and spiritual beliefs are a very important aspect of it. And third, we list the consequences to the doctor. And that really wakes them up. There's no more about, well, I'm going to lose my job. No, you're going to lose your license.
Yeah, can I add something? Sure. The reason why it's so important to have this in writing is because doctors have had their memories fail, and they don't remember you saying no. I don't recall you ever saying no Velcro, if that's what was the name on the medication, which is the same as remdesivir, if you didn't know. They play little word games like that in hospitals. So, and they just don't. That's not the way I remember.
But I gave
And
it
then-
to you. I gave you the paper, and you said you would put it in mine.
Yeah, and that's why it needs to be delivered the way
Yes.
that we have a special delivery method, so that it doesn't matter if he were to crumple it up and throw it in the trash or keep it in his pocket. No, we have a workaround for that, and it's going to get into that electronic medical record as quick as an hour of landing in the hospital. We'll tell you about that in a minute.
Next slide.
All right, so this is kind of what you're going to look at on your consent form. And there's a lot of choices on there. These are just the most commonly asked for things, or things that people did not want. They didn't want a vaccine, for instance, a COVID vaccine. Yet doctors are badgering people. Nurses are telling you that you're going to die if you don't get one. It's obscene. It's ridiculous.
Yes. We have to do the protocol. No,
Yeah.
you don't. And people are telling me, well, informed consent completely goes away when you enter the hospital. No, it doesn't go away. Unfortunately, we have to find a new way to assert our rights. We have them. They can't take them away. But we have to have this new way that we're about to talk about to enforce them and make sure that they know about them. And we can't just say, well, I'm just never going to the hospital. That was my plan. It didn't work out how I planned.
Try that with a heart attack, stroke. Your arm just got cut off, chopping down a tree or whatever. There's times you're going to need a hospital. We want hospitals, right? We want to get what we want and not what we don't want.
Right.
And that's what this document's for.
Okay, next slide.
So where do we get this idea? This isn't Greta's idea or my brilliant idea. I'd like to take credit for it. I can only take credit for a bottle stopper. This idea came from an insider who knew that doctors are trained to take the no seriously of one group, and that's Jehovah's Witness. Their faith has been for decades respected in hospitals. So they have a document, and they carry something actually in their wallet, in their purse, and the hospitals are all gamed out to respect that they don't want blood transfusions. Guess what? They don't get blood transfusions.
Right.
even if it would save their life, even if they would bleed out and they needed it, they don't get it. And it doesn't matter if it makes sense to the doctor, it doesn't matter if the doctor thinks it's ridiculous, they respect it. And they didn't get that before COVID, during COVID, or after COVID. And there's a precedent for that all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they've won. So we thought, I have a particular religious and spiritual belief myself. I'm a Christian. Why wouldn't my beliefs be respected on a document? If it worked for them, it should work for me. It should work for somebody who has a belief in worshiping trees or ants or whatever. It should be respected. Their nose should be respected. And so we use that in this document, the religious and spiritual beliefs. That's one aspect.
Yep. Deeply held religious and spiritual beliefs.
Yeah.
No one can interpret that but you,
Right.
because you're the one that deeply holds them. So, but they have to respect it and honor it. Next slide.
So this is very personal to me because I came up with this idea to add consequences to the document. We had a prior form of this, but doctors are so brazen and they're so belligerent, so arrogant in hospitals right now, the majority, that they knew that they could do practically anything. They could probably walk up to you and slap you in the face, they thought, and they would be okay. You know, as long as you were COVID, they'd probably get away with it. And that's because there's COVID legal shielding, the CARES and the PrEP Act. And they knew they would never get slapped with a malpractice suit and it stick, and it won't, by the way. That's a waste of money right now if you're looking for a lawyer to take up a case because of COVID shielding. It's just a mistake. We were doing the best we could during COVID. We gave you remdesivir. We thought it would work, even though you said no, but we're doctors and, right? So anyway, I put a consequence in there after talking to a widow one day. I was walking around in East Texas, getting a call, working with this particular set of sisters, and the husband was so close to getting out. And the doctor straight up lied to me. And he said, oh, no. He's doing so much better. And overnight, they threw him on a ventilator. And that kind of thing happened more times than I...
At 90% oxygen.
90% oxygen.
And then had the nerve to
I had
say,
advocated for budesonide.
Yeah.
He got budesonide. He even got it when how many hours, increments I wanted it at the milligrams that the patient wanted it, I should say. Patient wanted it, and I advocated for them. And he was improving, and then they threw him on a ventilator.
well, and then had the nerve to say, when she said he was at 90% oxygen. Remember, I got all the way down to 66 before I even went. And she said, he's at 90% oxygen. That doesn't matter.
I said, it does matter.
Yeah.
Numbers matter. I said, that actually does matter.
Yeah.
So anyway, talking to the widow, just hours after her husband passed, I said, Nancy, I vow to you, I felt so kind of defeated and kind of ashamed that he didn't make it out, even though I didn't do it, but I felt responsible. I said, I promise you, I can think of a lot of words for these doctors, they're going to have consequences. And so I said, I'm going to add something that'll get their attention. It's going to have a phrase right there in writing. I could have said it, that, hey, if you kill me, you're going to be reported to the board. That wouldn't have mattered. It needs to be in writing. And it said right there in black and white, we added the phrase that if you violate my intentional wishes, my written, well thought out intentional wishes, something to that effect, I don't have it in front of me, you will be reported to the state medical board. And so they get a letter in the mail. This is what happens. And they will have to defend it. And you could say, oh, the board is biased towards these bad doctors. These reports on doctors are out there forever. And it does matter. Does anybody pay attention to Google reviews? That alone, just reputational cost to them for doing something intentionally against somebody's wishes, which is an intentional tort battery, if they get this. It does matter. And it will have to be defended, and they will have to lawyer up, and it'll take time away from they'll probably not sleep well at night, and they'll have to defend it, and anyway, it's a big old problem to them. And so anyway,
they could face jail time.
And with the document, they could face jail time, and according to Dr. Mercola, a 7 or 8 figure judgment.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we made it as captivating to the doctors as possible.
Right, right. And I'd like to just touch one more time on something that I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy here, but I've worked with people all across the United States, hundreds of people, hundreds of stories, phone call. I have a support group on Wednesday nights for victims. You know, and over again, they want to sue so bad, you know. Unfortunately, what I try to tell them, well, we have a malpractice suit, we have a neglect suit. It does not matter if you call it malpractice, it does not matter if you call it neglect. The PrEP and the CARES Act covers them. What neglect means is, I forgot. I'm overwhelmed with COVID, I forgot. Well, we forgive you.
I forgot to feed you. I forgot to give you water.
Right,
Fluids.
malpractice. Malpractice
Yeah.
means I made a mistake. This is a new pandemic, you
Do
know.
the best we can.
Yeah, so I made a mistake. Well, we forgive you. You're covered. What's different about this is that you intentionally went against my wishes that are in
Writing,
writing,
documented,
in my
legally
medical
served.
records. It's like taking a pillow and suffocating the patient. It wasn't an accident. I didn't forget. I didn't trip and fall with a pillow and hold it down for a certain amount of
You didn't want an axe
time.
in your head?
No, it was intentional. It's criminal. So that's why this is different, and that's why serving it this way is so important, and it's what will hopefully save your lives, unless you have just a maniac, you know, serial killer doctor. Which I
Next
hope-
slide.
No, yeah, next slide. Hope nobody gets that.
Right. Yeah, there are psychopaths out there, but there's consequences for those. So this is kind of a clever thing that Dr. Mercola thought we put in the document. We state in the document that this document that's been legally served, it's been, you know, notarized, witnessed by a notary, or the signature, it can only be revoked in writing. And the reason for that is I kind of thought out, you know, there's a case where I had a 93-year-old who was in the hospital in Dallas, and I was working with the family, and she was so scared of spending one more night. She was going to be discharged in the morning on her last night there. She wasn't in there for COVID, but they kept badgering her to get the shot. 5 times they came at her with the COVID shot. And she said, no, absolutely not. No, I don't want. She was afraid she was going to fall asleep, which people do at night. And she didn't want to spend one more night in there. She didn't trust them after 5 times. And so she started unplugging her leads after pushing the call button, and nobody came for 20 minutes. And she had to get herself out and wheeled past the hospital. She got home. Everything's great. She just celebrated her 75th wedding anniversary. Wow. She just texted me. So anyway, it can only be, the reason why it's in writing is so that if she falls asleep with the document, she didn't have the document, okay? She didn't do the homework. So I'm just trying to get her out. But if she had had that document and it didn't have that phrase on there, the doctor could say, I think I heard her mumble, she wants it now. I think I heard that. Nurse, is that what we heard? Yeah. And so it's a he said, she said, and no. That's not possible, because in the document it said it can only be revoked in writing, and you can change your mind. Just write it down
And have a witness.
and have a witness.
Yep. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is very important on how and when to deliver this document. First off, you only deliver this document when you need it, when you become a patient, when you are receiving treatment at the hospital. We've had a lot of people that mail it off to the hospital. I'm like, are you have scheduled surgery? No, but I live around here and that's the hospital I'm gonna go to. I said, but what if you're out of town and you have to be rushed to a different hospital? You know, that doesn't make any sense. I said, and you are not in the hospital. You don't have a medical record in the hospital until you get into the hospital. I said, believe it or not, these hospitals are businesses. I don't care if they're labeled saint. I don't care if they're labeled whatever. That we're a nonprofit. Yeah, you're a profit. You're making a profit. You're profiting off of us, the death of us. So that's the thing. As soon as you become a customer, then you use this document. That's when you have to enact your emergency contacts. Like I had the phone call.
Wait a second, do I just not send it to the hospital across the street? I mean, that's where I went
No.
last time.
No.
Wait, I'm trying to get to the Q&As that everybody's thinking. Wait a second. I think I'm gonna be on vacation in Colorado, and I think that I might get hurt mountain climbing, so maybe I should go ahead and send them in advance.
Or I've had someone say, it's gonna take a lot of money to send it to every hospital in Texas. You don't
I
send it
agree.
to every hospital in Texas, please. Well, I wanna cover all my bases. No, that's not how it works. You only activate these,
But I have a chart already. I was a patient there before. That's where,
they closed it, because you're not a patient. That's why they call it discharge. So when you're admitted is when you have a medical record, and then they can put it in there. And then when you're discharged, that record's closed, we're done with you, and, you're on your way.
Did they give it back to you?
Did they give what back to you? Well, you're gonna keep the
yeah,
original
we're gonna
always.
go over that in the next
Yeah.
slide, which is, or the next
Yeah.
video.
And you can request your medical records and all that stuff.
And I know you're already thinking, well, how can I do that? I'm in the hospital, I'm in a gown, and I'm kind of naked, and I can't get to a post office, and I can't get to a courier service, and
Yes,
we cover that in the video.
yes.
And so,
And it's very
You're gonna
important.
have help.
It's very important on how to deliver it. When you're in the hospital, you're gonna have emergency contacts, and you're gonna have this explained to them, for several reasons, so they know what's going on, they're informed, and so that they and their families can have the same thing set up for them. And it's gonna grow. It's going to spread like a bad rash.
it's kind of a pyramid scheme.
Yes.
You're gonna tell 3 people, and they're gonna tell 3
Right.
people.
Yes, we're gonna have a Bernie
beautiful
Madoff here,
downline.
but in a good way.
A Ponzi scheme.
Yes, exactly. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna call that emergency contact. He's gonna have a copy of your forms. You can actually keep a copy of it, a picture of it with your phone if you wanna
Yes.
have it on there, and then
Recommended.
and then email it to a courier service, or email it to your family member, however you wanna do it. But as long as your emergency contact gets it certified mailed,
Return receipt requested.
yes, you want that receipt so that you know, hey, we've served it to you, you can't say you didn't get it.
Yeah, who are
signed
you
for
sending it to?
The CEO.
Do you,
Why-
wait, I don't know the name of the CEO at every hospital in America. How can I do this?
You don't need to know the name of the CEO, there's only one, and that's where it's gonna go to.
Right.
And same thing with the courier service,
Wait, you're saying I just need to put Chief Executive Officer or just CEO? That's enough?
that's it.
And
And
the
the name of the
hospital
hospital.
name, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, same thing with the courier service, you're gonna get a 1-hour courier service, both ways, just in case our postal service, we know they're perfect, but in case they're not that day, get the courier service.
Yeah,
They're gonna,
pay for it to be there in an hour.
in an hour, they're gonna be there. They're gonna get a signature saying that it got there. So you have
Yeah.
2 ways served, and it's gonna go straight to the CEO. Now, the CEO, this is what's important. The CEO is in charge of running the hospital. Remember that slide that said the doctor doesn't work for the hospital? Okay, so he's got these papers, and it makes him liable. The CEO's like, I'm not liable for this patient, the doctor is.
It's kind of like playing hot potato.
I'm gonna put it
Legal
in the
hot
medical.
potato. He's gonna
Yeah.
pass it off to the doctor.
I'm putting it in the medical record now, the liability is back to the doctor. So that's why it gets in the medical record so fast. If the CEO sits and holds
I don't
it,
want it.
well, then the CEO's responsible
Yep.
for a death that happens, that they're encouraging, possibly. So the CEO doesn't want to be held liable, so he's going to make sure it goes into that medical record as soon as possible. It's off of me, back onto the doctor, just like it said in that general
And
consent.
remember, the staff side, the building side, the administration, the CEO, all that, opposite of the doctors, they won't indemnify the doctor. They're not gonna have his back, might as well just push him in front of a bus.
Right.
They don't care.
Right.
It's his license, his thing, we're just letting you do your thing here.
Yep.
And make us a lot of money while you're here, just so you know.
And we have a quick video that's gonna be an explainer video, but before I get to that, I wanna go over some what ifs, because I've heard some what ifs. What if the doctor won't take my caregivers and consent form? We went through that. You tell him, it's going to your CEO. And then he's gonna go,
Yep.
What was
Let
that?
me get that out of the trash.
Yeah. What was that? You know, if you knew that some legal documents were going to somebody who had the ability to revoke your privileges,
You're gonna see a
gonna
whole
stop.
lot of doctors dumpster diving.
Yes, let's back this train up. And so, what if going through the CEO puts a target on my back?
Oh, man.
Let me tell you something. A target's already on your back. As soon as you walk through
It's
that
hunting
door,
season and you're all deer.
you're 20-point bucks. Let me tell you. And when you go in there, that target is on your back already, especially if you're not vaccinated.
Yeah.
So, and then the last what if is, what if I just give it to the nurse and the doctor, and they say they'll put it in? I mean, she was really nice.
Nice,
She was so nice, and the doctor was so sweet. He smiled.
He held my
He
hand.
even did this. He was so nice, and he said, "I'll get that in there." I don't know if you'll know this, but sometimes they lie, and they do it while smiling and petting you. So, yeah,
Like a deer.
yes, exactly. My precious.
You're all Bambi.
So, if that's a few of the what ifs, but if you'd like to, you can put it on the next slide. This is a quick explainer video. It's a 4-minute explainer. It's on the website as well in case I want to watch it again. And this will clarify the documents a little bit more.
It walks you through a real scenario.
Hi, my name is Greta Crawford, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about the current care consent documents through this informational video. Remember, it is important to read every document thoroughly that you will be signing and know exactly what you are acknowledging. These forms should really be done before there's ever a need to visit the hospital. So let's take a look a little closer at these documents now. Along with the caregivers and consent document, there is a letter which will also need to be delivered. It comes with instructions and will need to be notarized as well. On this letter, you'll fill out your name, date of birth, and address at the bottom. This letter will go to the CEO of that specific hospital the patient is in to inform him or her that the attached current care consent form needs to be added to the medical records of this patient immediately. Once you've filled out the letter portion, don't sign it until you are in front of a notary. Moving on to the current care document now. The first thing will be to print your name and go down each listed item. Read carefully each item and decide whether this is something you agree with or not. If it is something that you agree with, you put your initials next to that particular listed item. Do not put an X or a check, only your initials. Remember, there is also an area where you can add personalized information that you would like your attending physician to know, such as medications or foods you may be allergic to. Once you have filled out the letter and the current care document, it is important that you do not sign them until you are in front of a legal notary. Once in front of the legal notary, he or she will witness your signature and initial, date it, and put the proper seal of notary on the document. After this is complete, then make 10 copies of this original notarized document and instructions. These copies are very important to have because you will need them to disperse among your emergency contacts, the doctors, nurses, and keep with you either in your purse or glove compartment of your vehicle, for example. Always keep the original in a safe place in your home. It would be a good idea to have a minimum of 3 emergency contacts in case one cannot be reached at that time of the emergency. Make sure to discuss with your emergency contacts what these documents are and what they are for. Inform them that they need to keep these documents in a safe place along with the instructions in case you need to visit the hospital. Explain to them that it will be their job to make sure these documents are delivered by certified mail and legal courier service to the specific hospital in the event you need medical attention. Let them know that the specific instructions are included with the documents. Here's a scenario of how these documents may be used.
Hello.
Hey Bob, this is Mary. Remember those hospital documents I gave you a couple months ago?
Yeah, I have them right here on the side of the fridge.
Well, I've had a little accident. I'm at
hospital, and I need you to follow those instructions with the documents and get them certified, mailed, and delivered courier service. I'll text you the name and address of the hospital right now. Please get this done as soon as possible. Be sure to follow the instructions.
Sure, Mary, I'll do it right now.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Once you are admitted into the hospital, give the copy of the document that you carry with you to your attending physician. Inform him or her that this needs to be put in your medical records and that this document is currently being delivered certified mail and courier service to the hospital directly to the CEO. You may also want to get family members to bring your additional copies to hand out to your nurse or other specializing doctors. Finally, it is very important to gain access to your online medical records as soon as possible. Once you gain access, check your online records often to make sure your current care documents have been placed in your medical record for the medical staff to see. You will also want to make sure that your medical team is honoring what you have consented to and not consented to by reviewing your medications and treatments you are receiving as much as possible. The current care documents and the process requires a little planning and preparation, but in the end, you could save yourself from enduring life-threatening conditions or even worse, death. Stay safe and God bless.
Next slide. That's you.
Yep, so just a few points to go over again, some additional information. Only send to the hospital if you currently are a patient. Can't stress that enough. I get calls every day.
Yeah.
Asking that same question over and over again. Like, where do I send it? Thinking about going? Whatever. Only when you are a patient, and that's when you're gonna, pick up the phone, call your lifeline. If anybody saw Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, whatever that show was, you're gonna call that trusted person. If they don't answer, call the second trusted person, the third trusted person, whatever, and say, remember I gave you a copy of that form? Do it now. Send it by courier. Send it, return, certified mail, return receipt requested. Okay?
click.
There is no record. There is no record in the hospital for you. They have no obligation. The CEO, even if it's delivered as we do, which is a priority mailer, flat mailer, so it stands out, certified mail, return receipt requested, even though it's riveting that it came across his desk and it looks really important and legal, he's gonna search the records and see if you're an active patient. If you're not, he has no obligation to keep it. There's nowhere to put it.
Right.
And so he's either, if he's nice, he'll send it back, or it just gets tossed in the trash. It'd be like if you wanted maybe someday a bigger TV at Best Buy, and you called Best Buy and you said, hey, my TV's kind of on the fritz. It might go out at some point. I'm just gonna give you my credit card number now. And they're gonna get, well, why? Do you wanna go pick it? No, I don't want it. I don't want it right now, but I'm just gonna give you, just take it down. Here, we're gonna start over again. That's insane. So don't do that, please. Only when you are an active patient currently in a hospital. The second point is this document is for adults who have the cognitive ability to make their own health decisions, okay? We get asked a lot about kids, like, so I've got a 10-year-old, he's in the hospital, get his tonsils out, How do I do this? I don't know, because we don't deal with that. We don't know healthcare law for minors in every state. Every state has different laws pertaining to that. CPS is a real thing, a real threat. That's not our jam. That's not our lane.
Right.
This is for adults who have the capacity, not for somebody on a ventilator, not for somebody who's snowed out on, whatever they're giving them in drug regimen, and they can't make decisions, or they were scooped up off the highway and they're put in a hospital ER, being put together in an emergency room. That's when a medical power of attorney kicks in. That's when advanced directives. That's not this.
Right.
This is not that. This is for people who can say, I don't want remdesivir. I said I didn't want remdesivir. Okay, it's that. Okay, so
Next slide. And these are some important points. The reason we put these on afterwards is because these documents are going across the United States. They're being used across every state. They're being successful across every state. And they're being used in different countries. We're having people contact us saying, how do we use this? Well, I don't know the laws in your countries, but if the Jehovah Witnesses in your country are being respected in their wishes, then theoretically these documents should be respected as well. So they're starting to use them in other countries, and for
What are
that,
some of those countries?
oh gosh,
Canada, South Africa?
Italy, Spain, you name it. I've been contacted, just all over the place. Also, what we wanted to say is this might be some additional information you want to add to your, where it has those lines there that you want to add. And the reason we put it here is because I don't want to put it on the general form because it's for everyone. This is more specific to Texas. The one that we have is getting your medical records as soon as possible. So what you want to put there is you might want to say, I give consent to medical, medical records, or I give authority to.
I give my permission for the patient named, date of birth. I'm sorry, I'm the patient. Okay, I'm sorry, it's on the form. Hi, I'm Laura Bartlett. Okay, on the form, you're gonna add where the blank lines are, that I give permission to this person. You're gonna to access the medical record on my behalf.
Right. You
And
can
that'll
add that.
speed things up because we are always helping, even just earlier today, I don't even remember where this person was from. Anyway, they needed access to their dad's electronic medical record, and it's a big rigmarole to get in.
Yeah, HIPAA
Once
laws,
they're already
this-
in there because of HIPAA laws. Let's just get ahead of it and put that on so it's documented when you walk in that I give my permission to this person, and it kind of speeds the process up because they're not in a big hurry. I don't know
Right.
if you guys know this, but they're really not
And you want,
overly interested.
right, and you
in
want
helping you.
someone checking those online medical records. If the patient is not feeling well, they're not really going to get out a laptop and start checking their own records. I mean, they need someone to check and make sure, okay, they're not getting fentanyl every 30 minutes.
Yeah, which is what happened in one of my
right.
cases. That family didn't know, the doctor lied and said that they were only getting this, and this. I had encouraged the family, get into that electronic medical record. I can't do it for you. You have to do it. Please do it. Be the squeaky wheels. Get in there. Call the IT department. Raise hell. Get in there. And finally,
There it
they
is.
got in there.
I give permission for the following people to
Yeah,
access.
something like that.
Yeah, something like that. You can write that in there.
But they finally got in there and they
Yeah.
found out that they were given, the husband was given fentanyl every 30 minutes
Right.
against his wishes, and he would never have agreed to that. And they said, well, he's in pain.
He had double knee surgery the year before and didn't even take
He
Tylenol.
wasn't able to say no. It was now turned over to the medical power of attorney. Medical power of attorney said there is no way he would have agreed to that if he could, because he had had double knee surgery and never even took a Tylenol. So I'm telling you, they lie, they omit information, they gaslight, they do everything.
You need to see it with your own eyes.
I'm
And
not exaggerating.
and this,
So-
yeah, you might want to add that. And a second thing you might want to add is on the lines is I would like my religious counselor with me per Senate Bill 572, and you can thank Bob Hall for that because we have found out that hospitals in Texas are recently are saying no, you can't come in. It's COVID. You can't come in. And
They're
the
doing it again.
patient doesn't know about this bill. Well, this is going to refresh their memory, so you might want to write that down.
If you don't want to be isolated, alone, and badgered, then write that in.
Okay. Next slide.
Oh, yeah, this is one of my favorite slides. Guess who's responsible for the hospital treatment, like remdesivir and throwing you on a ventilator with COVID? Does anybody know who that was? Who was responsible? Was it the WHO? We've heard all about the big bad WHO.
Fauci.
No, I never saw Fauci. He
I-
didn't give it to
Where
me.
does Fauci practice again? Where does he have privileges?
And the remdesivir fairy didn't give it to
He
me.
sets the protocols.
But
No.
he didn't give it to me, though.
No.
He did not give it to me, and I didn't approve it.
Right.
Only one person could have given it to me.
Only the
wasn't the
doctor.
remdesivir fairy. Wasn't Fauci. I never saw Fauci.
Wait. We got some really crappy elected officials other than Bob Hall. So maybe it's them. You know, they're all on the take, and they're doing just crappy job. Maybe we just need better elected officials. They're responsible. No, they don't have a medical license. They couldn't have ordered remdesivir for her.
My favorite thing was at our last church event was, you'd said it was Fauci. He set the protocol. Laura had said, well, if I'm working at a restaurant, my boss tells me, you serve this heaping pile of poo
I did say that.
to the patients, or you're going to lose
Take it
your
to
job.
table 15.
Yes, now. Are you going to lose your job? Are you going to serve it?
Well, they told me to do
They
it.
told me to do it. No, you're not.
Would you do it? If you knew it could kill them, it's got E. coli
And it probably won't taste very good.
and
Just
it's
saying.
not without salt. So, no, you wouldn't do it, and it wouldn't be the manager's fault. It's the person who shoved it in front of them. And I don't
said,
even have
"Eat
a special license or anything. I'm just the errand runner.
Mm-hmm.
How much more of an onus is it on somebody who took a vow, a oath to do no harm, and to give you informed consent, which, by the way, Nuremberg is about. It's all about informed consent. So it's that serious, and they're the one with the license to order it from the pharmacy. Nobody else could have gotten it out of that place without a license.
And we're not
being
saying,
one of these guys.
yeah, we're,
Okay, so stop blaming everybody. It's a distraction.
we're not saying Fauci's a good guy.
No, I
I mean, I
wouldn't
don't
invite
want
him
him
to
for
Christmas.
Christmas dinner,
Right.
no. But when it came to my treatment, he didn't give me my treatment.
Right, these are just distractions. The person who can do anything right or wrong in a hospital is the doctor. Not, the nurses can't order it either. It's the doctor. He has a medical license. He has a medical license to kill, and he also now has a medical license to lose.
Well, what if the nurse gives you a shot?
She couldn't have done it without the doctor.
Right.
Okay,
She can't prescribe medicine.
she is not, she doesn't have a license to even order anything from me.
But she's
From
just
pharmacy.
as liable. She's just as liable. If she carries out an order, it's the wrong order, she's just as liable.
Yeah, if
She does need to know about it.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and you have a right to report nurses that are doing wrong things, like going against your wishes, to the state nursing board, and that's easy to find, just Google it. So
Exactly.
anyway, I think I've probably,
Yeah. Next slide.
probably exhausted every
Yeah.
feeling I have on that last slide, because it's
Yeah.
the doctors.
And this is our little plug for if you want to donate to us. We do everything for free. We don't call ourselves a nonprofit. We call ourselves a no-profit.
Or a double
Yeah.
negative, a
Nonprofit.
non-profit. See what I did there?
In the
So-
negative profit.
And why don't we do that? Why don't we just get a 501c and do what everybody else is doing? It's so cool. Because we don't want to be controlled by the government,
Yeah,
telling us what we can say and not say. And believe me, they don't want this said.
yeah.
What we said
And we
today.
don't have any affiliate payment. We don't advertise
We're not selling
products.
products.
Because
and-
believe it or not, they have they can sway what you say too.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want you to talk like that. You know, we have a lot of doctors that we're friends with that support us. We don't want you getting that information out.
Right.
We don't want you telling us what to say. We know the truth, and we're gonna speak the truth. And quite frankly, I don't need your money. I've got Jesus. That's all I need.
I need money and Jesus.
Well, he's gonna provide. Next slide. Okay, so I wanted to end on two verses from the Bible. Hosea 4:6 says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." Ephesians 6:13, "Therefore put on God's complete armor, that you may be able to resist and stand your ground on the evil day, and having done all the crisis demands, to stand firmly in your place." So take these documents and the knowledge that you've learned today. Have faith in God, who resides in each one of you, by the way, and then stand your ground. And that's how you'll make it out alive. And thank you, and we'll take questions. Let's go ahead.
We talked about a situation under the shadow of COVID.
Uh-huh.
Now, let's take an absurd example of maybe your doctor's honest and maybe your nurses are honest.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything in these documents that if you had to go to a hospital 3 years from now for some totally different reason, that may prevent the doctor from doing whatever they would normally do because they see that there's something in here that says, leave them alone.
No,
I
the,
don't understand what.
the list is there. The first list is on the things that you can sign off on is informed consent. So basically, it's telling you, I want the risks, I want the benefits, I want the reasonable alternatives, and you have to make sure that the patient understands. So every doctor should be doing that.
They should have been doing this anyway.
Yes.
But you gotta hold their feet to the fire now.
Yes.
And what you're saying to them, the good doctors,
Mm-hmm.
they're happy to have it in writing, because good doctors want to follow the law and want to uphold their duty to informed consent. So they're thrilled that you're over-communicating to them.
This
Trust
actually,
me, you can't over-communicate anyway.
Right.
But if you can say it, you can write it down. That's all you're doing.
if there's a good doctor left in the hospital,
I wanna meet them.
yes, well, no, this will give them the opportunity to push back.
Right.
They will say, look, I can't do what you're telling me to do.
Yeah, good doctors love this.
Yes.
This gives them a chance to walk in and say, I know that you have a problem with me not doing that protocol that's killing 1.5 million people, but my license is at stake here, not yours, Mr. CEO, money man, bean counter, administrator. Yeah, I only have a license to lose. I'm not doing it.
So the first thing on the document, the first thing that you'll initial off to is informed consent, which covers everything. Everything from now and everything in the future. So, but we've listed specifics in there too, just in case.
That are obvious. Remdesivir is a poison. It was a
It's-
failed Ebola drug. Does
Right.
everybody know that? That it killed over 50%?
Shut down kidneys.
Yes.
They had to stop the
All
trial.
you had to do was click the link. Why didn't
Exactly.
the doctors do
Well,
that?
they're getting incentivized.
Yeah, because.
Okay,
the
so it
minute
doesn't
they
matter whether it
changed
works or
that
not.
COVID code where they would get all that money, I knew what they
You're
were.
worth more dead than you are alive.
I had to quit my job over it.
And we appreciate that.
I'm not sure if this is really more of it's not a question, it's a comment. The Texas Medical Board is mainly known for their abuse.
Uh-huh. So now let's flip the tables and let's use them for what they were intended for.
So is there any kind of, like, I know it corrupt because they're known for attacking good doctors that
Yeah.
have no complaints against them and really trying to shut them down, so what?
It's just one more layer, because even if we didn't have that phrase on there, which, by the way, it makes every doctor's butt pucker. I have doctors in my own family, okay? They're good doctors. But just having that phrase on there is just another layer to go, oh, I should read the rest, okay? Even if the board is corrupt as hell, okay, and they won't do anything about it, they have to investigate every single complaint, which means it's gonna be a hassle, it's gonna take time from work. I know, I've had doctors in my family harassed, okay? So now it's time, like Jesus, flip the tables and use what was meant for bad for good. And we can't just go, well, I guess they'll do nothing, I guess I won't vote, I guess it doesn't matter. And I know it's a really valid question, or comment, it's true. But it gets their attention because, oh, what is this? And then they read on, they know that it's informed consent, and writing is essentially, it's so binding because there's proofs. Just saying it, they could go, I don't recall hearing that.
That's what makes it.
Okay? Nobody's there to witness it. The patient's there a lot by themselves alone. So this is, so they know just this document, even if they never were investigated, if they were to violate this and they didn't get investigated by the board and they did it anyway, that's an intentional tort of battery legally. That's not malpractice. That's not a oops, I made a mistake. That's intentional, and there are consequences that are criminal. Do you see the difference? It's not just, oops, I put the wrong medication, we make mistakes, we're so busy.
Yeah.
No, you said, don't do this. Whatever you do, do not put this in my IV. If they do that, big consequences to their license and criminally.
Yeah.
It's hard to practice medicine when you're in prison, okay?
So these doctors, they're filled with a spirit of fear, and that's what drove them to kill.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose my job. I don't
Yeah,
want
I
to
don't want to lose my
house.
privileges. I don't want to be
lose
shamed publicly like
don't wanna lose my
Dr.
car.
Bowden.
I got kids to feed. Fear. It's what drove them to kill. So if you're filled with the spirit of fear, then we'll give you something to be afraid of.
Yeah.
We're going to drive you in
We're
the
going
other
to
direction.
highly motivate them to do the right thing, whether they would normally do it, whether they have no moral compass. you know, greed is a big motivator. And if they cannot be a doctor anymore and all the privileges that provides, because now they're in jail.
That fear will drive
That's-
them in the other direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
well,
another example I have, and then I'll get to you, is like, why do we have written notices in stores that say shoplifters will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law and there are hidden cameras? Why? Because it's a deterrent. They've never had a deterrent before. Doctors have never had the owner of the body tell them, we know what's up and these are the consequences. Never.
I'm gonna interrupt for a second. So that you all don't come at once. If anybody is ready to sign the form, wants to fill out
That's
the
a good idea.
form, I can notarize the forms. I'm gonna go out into the foyer. If you still have questions, of course, I'm not trying to
Right.
interrupt that part, but I will notarize.
Okay, thanks.
I think this, I mean,
I'll go after her.
okay.
If you bring yourself to the hospital or you're brought to the
Yes.
hospital and you bring this, just like when they ask you, do you have a religious preference or whatever, when you hand this to them, one
Uh-huh.
of your 10 copies,
Yes.
shouldn't they be, when they open the medical file, shouldn't that, I'm not saying don't get it to the CEO and all of that, but isn't that a good first step?
It is.
It
Yeah,
is.
give it to the doctor. Give it to
Well,
an
the
admitting.
admitting, you know, you sit in front of the
Yeah.
admitting person.
Yeah.
Can I have your insurance card and so on?
Yeah.
Yes.
It doesn't guarantee it'll get into the electronic. The
Right.
secret sauce here, everybody, lean in. It's the electronic medical record. It's permanent. So what you want is it to get in there. Now, how do we get it in there? There's all these hands and people in the building. The CEO, not the doctor. Did you say doctor? No, the doctor's going from room to room to room and going home to the golf course.
Yes.
Yeah, you are, so that he's aware of it.
CEO also.
So, no, the CEO is important, guys, because the CEO is tasked over the affairs. This is from an insider who was the bridge between the doctor staff services, the medical staff services, and the CEO. And so this person, a little unicorn in the universe of the hospital system, knew, I know how important this is for this kind of thing to come across the desk. They have their own personal secretary. It's like no other in the hospital. And they look at mail like this that comes in like this, we gamed it out, even how it looks. Put it in a flat priority mailer. Everything we say has a purpose. We're not just guessing here.
Yeah, it's
So do
passing
it
the
like
liability
instructions.
ball. Basically,
Yes.
it's a liability hot potato.
Yes,
Nobody
and
wants
they
to
will-
hold on to it.
It's legally served. They're gonna do something with it. And they know it's on the line to do something with this in a very timely way. And you can bet they're not gonna want their hiney in a sling, so they're gonna get that into the electronic medical record and go, I'm done.
Yep.
It's your job.
Back to the doctor.
Yeah.
What was your question?
And that was yeah.
So, I think with the Nuremberg trials, everybody knows that the prison guards that said I was just doing my job were just as guilty. They knew what was going on. My question is, and I don't wanna generalize all physicians because there are many of them who are great. How aware are doctors of what's in remdesivir and what's inside the injection of the COVID-19 injection?
I'll tell you how.
It's their job to know.
Well, I'll tell.
So-
Oh wait, before you answer, I'll tell you how it's able to. We can figure this out. We teach 5-year-olds patterns. Red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. Okay. It's
Square,
been
square,
3
peg,
years.
peg. Yeah.
If you haven't figured out by now, as a highly educated doctor,
Oh, I don't know if you fell for it. She's not a doctor.
yeah, I'm not a doctor either. But I can pick up a pattern. Let's see, remdesivir, kidney failure, ventilator, death. Man, I just did that on 50 other patients. Do you know what the definition of insanity is?
Yeah.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So you either have an insane doctor or you have an evil
Yeah,
doctor at this point.
I might give a pass 2020, say March 5th.
But
okay?
still, informed consent. They
yes.
were taught this in
They should
medical
have
school.
Informed consent is this way, okay? Informed consent. Informed, that part of the phrase, is the doctor's duty. It's his obligation to inform you. If he didn't know anything about it, he says, we're treating with remdesivir, and by the way, I know Jack Diddley about it. That's informed consent.
Yeah.
I know nothing about it other than it was an Ebola drug. It
How can-
failed 50-some% of the time. We had to stop trials because it was killing people.
Right. How
That's
can,
informed consent.
how can you give me information on how to fix my pool pump if you don't even know what a pool pump is? If you know nothing about a pool pump?
Yeah. Anyway, the simple answer is doctors don't get a pass.
They don't get a
They
pass.
don't get a pass.
They were
It's their
taught this.
job to know this.
That's why the Jehovah Witness is such a precedent.
Yeah.
Because they're taught this in medical school,
Anyway.
and that jogs their memory. When you say, "What about the Jehovah Witness?" Then they're
Yeah.
like,
Let's keep
"Oh,
the questions tailored to the form, if we
Yes.
could. I'm sorry, who was next? Be
Uh,
honest.
somebody over here
Okay.
was.
Yes, on the form, it talks about blood transfusions.
Mm-hmm.
Do they screen now the blood, whether it has been vaccinated or
No,
not?
no.
So if
Now,
you
you're probably
check-
asking-
if you
you're probably
check
asking,
that
how
or
can you-
initial that, then you're saying, I will take no blood transfusion.
And how do Jehovah's Witnesses get around it? Do you know that they have advanced their techniques and processes in hospitals that they can do bloodless surgery? You all need to know that you can ask for expanders,
Blood expanders.
blood expanders.
That's called the reasonable alternative that they don't want to tell you.
Blood
about.
expanders in lieu of COVID vax blood.
Yeah.
That's a decision you're just gonna
Yeah.
have to make for yourself. We can't make that for you.
Right.
But know that Jehovah's Witness for 50 years have elected not to get blood transfusions, and they're able to do all kinds of surgeries.
Yeah.
So-
That's part of the reasonable alternatives
Yes.
and informed consent.
But they should have told you that.
On your form here is, obviously, the evil one is remdesivir, right?
Well,
Eh,
depending on what your situation is,
Okay.
yeah, most definitely.
I believe your verbiage is backwards here. The use of remdesivir.
Change it then.
Or it's generic.
Velcri.
Velcri.
Yeah.
Velcri is Gilead's Pfizer's
Yeah.
brand of remdesivir.
Okay, just change it.
So it's, I know, but if this is a legal document.
Yeah, go ahead and change it.
Me change it?
Yeah, go ahead and, hey, listen, guys, this is a
I mean, I
template.
think it's important
Anything-
because if you don't have
Thank
it
you.
correct, they can call you out on it. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Court.
I think
I'm just
they'll,
telling you.
okay, go ahead, and look, everybody has the power, because we want to empower you. We're not your end-all be-all. This form as it is
We're not
isn't-
attorneys either, by the way.
We're not attorneys
I'm
either.
just saying, if you leave a loophole like this.
Yeah, go ahead and
you're
change,
leaving more
thank you
out.
for bringing it to our attention and change it to suit your needs, and if anybody else
So,
wants to follow suit, do
Who
it.
wrote this for y'all?
I'm sorry?
Who wrote this?
Why are you asking?
Because you might want to have them proofread it again
Yeah.
to make sure there's not any
Yeah.
additional errors.
Yeah, okay, go run through it all, and please let us know. Yeah, let us know. Change anything you want in there. It's a template. We appreciate it. What's your name, sir? James what? I'm sorry?
Andrews, James.
James Anders?
Yeah, I'm
Thank
on-
you.
Yeah, I'm on your side.
Yeah, I know, thank you.
I'm just trying to protect you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. So, you,
When my dad was murdered 2 years ago, he had rotating doctors. Do I need
Yes.
to present this form to every doctor? as
once
well?
it's in the electronic medical record, it's, all eyes are on it.
Okay.
That's why it's important to get it into the electronic medical record.
How soon should I expect to see it in the electronic medical record?
You
How
just
quickly
have to
do I
keep
expect
checking.
see it?
Yeah, go, that's why we say
Do I give
get
them a
into,
day? Do I give them an hour? Do I give them a week before I start harassing them about why isn't that in my record?
yeah, listen, just be diligent. There's no set like, 2 hours and 20 minutes. You gotta be the squeaky wheel, you gotta be assertive, you've got to be tenacious. Just get in there, get into the electronic medical record and make sure it's in there. And then you have the receipts, and then it's time to go back and say, look, I sent this certified mail, courier service, I got the receipts right here that you guys signed for it, it's dated, and where the hell is my record, my document that I need in the electronic medical record, because the cover letter that you guys are gonna send with it gives instructions to put it into the electronic medical record.
Yeah,
So-
once you have that receipt, that it was delivered, Monday at 1 a.m., and they wait till the end of the week, that's not a timely manner. Then they're held liable for it. And then if something happens to the patient, then you have problems, you have intentional tort again. You've willingly withheld information that would save that patient's life and disregarded their wishes. And we know you have it because we have the receipt. We have that you've been legally served.
Yeah.
So,
Just a clarification. Sorry.
Oops, there's someone right
Oh.
behind you, I'm sorry.
So I'm happy to hear that it's being used in other countries and across the states. My question is, so my parents do get Nuremberg Code,
Yeah.
Nuremberg Code, and any precedent did not make any difference in all the lawsuits that we brought in the states, right?
Right.
But my question specifically is, so they live in a country where they are denied care, so I would love to like have this translated, and if you are not vaccinated, or if you were to present something like this, they were denied care, and I'm worried if something like that would even happen in the States. So have you ever come across anything like that?
No.
And you suggest we still present something like that?
Yeah, we actually, speaking of having it translated, Dr. Mercola believed in it so strongly at his own expense, translated it into Spanish for us. So it could get out to, approximately 50 million other people. But there's always a chance there's a psychopath running around hospitals. I think that's pretty obvious at this point. That regardless of consequences, be damned, they'll do it. But man, we can't stop every intruder from kicking in our front door or back door, robbing us blind, but we can put a lock on our door, and we can put notices in businesses that say you'll be prosecuted. It's just, do whatever you can. I can't guarantee.
Yeah, most of our success stories, they haven't been delivered certified mail.
No.
They haven't. They've given it to the doctor, and the doctor has done a 180.
Yeah, let's tell them. I mean, you guys are probably wondering how this practically works. You want to tell about? This is such a crazy, coordinated effort.
I don't know if y'all know
I don't even
that.
know where to start. The Scott Sheriff story, where I was about to get on a plane. I was about to get on a Southwest flight, and I get a text message from somebody in Wisconsin because they were going to assist somebody in a hospital. It was a 45-pound man, and obviously that's a very fragile human being. He had a muscle wasting disease.
They were giving him remdesivir.
And yes, and they needed to stop. He didn't have even enough body weight like a normal person to withstand it. She got 5 rounds, but you're not 45 pounds.
No,
and so
definitely not.
But it was bad, right?
Yes.
So bad.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Months and months and months to recover, but it's still recovering. But he was on his way to the hospital, reaches out to me, and I said, where are you? I'm on my way to the hospital. I said, turn the car around, go get this thing printed out, and send it. Now, that was a 1 or 2.0 iteration of this. It's been improved and refined and refined and refined. And now we've got the delivery service, we're going to get it into electronic medical record, but we needed that doctor that's all we could do. They're going to put the needle in the arm. I said, as quickly as possible, get this printed out. So he turned his car around. He went to a print shop closed, went to the nearest bank next door, walked into a bank officer's office, said, can you print something for me? I'm going to send you an email. Sent him an email. They printed it out as a favor. Wasn't even his bank. And he ran it up to the hospital, and it stopped it. And that guy's alive today. So that's one.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of extreme, weird scenarios.
I don't know if y'all know
within
who
hours.
Banners for Freedom is.
Ever hear of Banners for Freedom?
Anybody? Okay.
Banners for Freedom. They're responsible for all the vaccine billboards of all over the country. Downtown New York City.
Times Square.
Times Square, the digital billboards. Anyway.
I got a phone call from the founder of that, and he says, my brother's in the hospital. What do I do? I said, well, you need to get these documents. You need to find out what they're giving them. You need to, I'm going to give you Laura's phone number, and you're going to contact her. So he goes in there, he asks the doctor, says, what are you giving my brother? I'd just like to know. He's being very polite, and why do you want to know? They get very defensive. Why do you want to know? Well, I just heard there were some, medications that aren't good. He's not in there for COVID, by the way. And she said, what drug are you talking about? He says, well, I know I don't want my brother to get remdesivir. Well, he doesn't even have COVID, so why are you even asking about it? So he calls Laura after I give her the number, and he says, Laura, I gotta go. The police are here. They called the police on him.
2 police officers come into the room to haul him out just for asking, and he's a very mild-mannered person.
Nice Christian
very
man.
gentle, soft-spoken.
What city?
This is
in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in North Texas.
Yeah,
yeah.
And so anyway, I'm like, what? He goes, I don't know why they're here. I got to go. I'll call you back.
Yeah, they said he was belligerent and drunk.
And in,
Oh, so y'all weren't kidding on your skit?
no,
This
that's
is
not an
really
exaggeration.
happening, really happening. And so Laura says, you need these documents now, get your brother to sign them now, because he was coherent,
Yeah.
did all that. So I'm sitting here just worried, just texting, I'm really concerned, really think about you. So the next day he calls me, and I'm like, oh, Lord, please let this be okay. He says, I said, how's everything going? He says, it's amazing. I said, well, what do you mean it's amazing? He says, Greta, he's getting treated better than he's ever been treated at a hospital. I said, what? He says, the doctor apologized, they're opening up an investigation.
To
I got
who
this
called the
nurse
police?
blaming that nurse, and that nurse blaming this nurse. Nobody can figure out who called the police. But the doctors apologized immediately, and they said he's never been treated better. He got out.
So,
Nothing was sent courier service and all that stuff. Just I'm
just
telling
having
you,
the
fear,
document.
fear drives you to do all sorts of things.
We'd like it just to be, you know, a good moral compass.
Yes.
And wanting to do the right thing. But unfortunately, in the last couple of years, advocating for people from coast to coast and everywhere in between, I'm not seeing a whole lot of motivation just out of the goodness of their heart.
Right.
So we have to keep people alive, and the only way I can do that is to have consequences and have documentation to prove it.
Right. But when the Lord said stand your ground, he meant it.
Resist the devil
Yes.
and he will flee.
And for good stuff, with everything I heard, if everybody knows this and everybody does this,
Yes.
I can see so many good doctors gonna pick it up the soon you give to him, he like, thanks God, one
Yeah,
more
exactly.
I have to kill.
Yes.
And it's gonna be more and more and more.
Yes,
Change
absolutely.
everything.
Like I said, our insider said
Because
5 doctors getting this in
because
any
he gonna
hospital.
know, if I'm not gonna kill him because he protect me too. Nobody gonna
Yes,
sue me.
it protects the doctor,
because
protects
I
the
cannot
patient.
do whatever hospital want me to do.
That's exactly
so
right.
It's protect the doctors too to do it good stuff.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly
I know.
right.
It's
Yes, thank you.
Exactly.
And can I quote what you said? We just need doctors to do it.
Yeah, there you go.
If everybody does it in this room, we'll be good.
Clarification.
I love it. Thanks, Elaine.
So when you're giving the form to the attending physician that you are checked into the hospital, when this form, when does the CEO get it?
Oh, as
Before-
quickly as possible. Soon
So
as you're,
at the same time, you want to give it to both?
you would like to, but you know, this is a logistics thing.
Yeah.
But
I,
I would,
I can tell you that when you get admitted into the hospital, it's not like they do it in
Yeah,
15
they don't-
minutes.
they
you
don't
know?
get really
You're
quick.
going to sit in the ER for 4 hours.
I
if you
sat
have
in
a
the
1
ER
hour
so long, I
courier
went
service,
home with appendicitis.
Yeah.
And then I came back in the morning.
and
So
if you're willing
ERs
to
are
sit there
not
for
really,
4
you know,
hours,
jiffy
you have
room.
to know, well, I'm going to be admitted. You know, otherwise you would have left 3
Right.
hours earlier. You know, you're not getting any better. You kind of know, okay, I'm getting worse. Let's just go ahead and get it going.
Yeah.
The documents may
To the
beat you.
CEO first then?
Yeah.
Because you don't know who your doctor's gonna be at that time.
Right, right.
You have nobody to hand it to, so you're going to,
Find out who the CEO is.
Right.
yeah, you don't even need to know the name. You just call your contact person, look, I'm in the ER, my arm's been severed, I've got a belt as a tourniquet. Can you please, I'm probably gonna need my arm put back on, so could
Right.
you please do me the big favor of sending that document that I told you about to the CEO of this hospital at this address?
But that document may get into your medical record before you even get
Yeah.
into a room.
That's right.
So if you go ahead and get it started. So, you know.
Hey, what if you have scheduled surgery? When you go in, we've had that, go give that example.
Okay, had someone call me and say I had scheduled surgery. My husband has to have this procedure done periodically. So they knew the doctor and everything, but they'd never used these documents before. And they were nervous because it was, you know, the COVID thing, and they didn't know what the doctor was gonna do. So they gave it to the doctor. She said, you would not believe what happened. She said, first time ever. And we've gone to this doctor before. He comes out. He talks with us for 45 minutes, telling us everything about the procedure, telling us the risks, the benefits, the alternatives, asking if we understood. And at that time, we hadn't put the blood consent on the form. The doctor offered it up. He says, if you need blood, do you want him to get Vax blood? She said, absolutely not. We have the same blood, he'll get my blood. He said, okay. He offered that up
Yeah.
to her. Then, after he left, She said, you won't believe this. The nurse comes in and does it all over again. The nurse explains and says, do you understand? She said, I've never had this, ever. And the surgery went well with flying colors. They probably wanted him to get out as soon as possible.
So that wasn't that lady that said they're stripped me down,
No.
they're giving me a drug, I said I don't want,
Well,
right.
yeah, so,
I just have a quick comment, which makes this document even more important. I haven't read the Hippocratic Oath, I'm not a doctor, but a really good friend of ours who's one of the good people, he's an anesthesiologist, and said to my husband and I, he said, you know, a colleague of mine said, hey, have you read the Hippocratic Oath lately? And our friend said, no, I've been practicing medicine forever. You make the patient your top priority and et cetera. Apparently it's been changed. So that the corporation is first and patient care
Yes,
is
they have no
way down the line.
motivation.
So that's what these kids in medical school
Yeah.
are being taught.
So they're gonna
and
need a little,
brainwashed. So
motivation.
This is even more important.
Yes.
Do no harm is at the bottom.
Yeah, no, exactly. And a personal experience this week, my mom was in the emergency room at Baylor. And you know, you gotta keep pushing, cause you can sit there for hours, like you said. And I was polite, and the registration nurse, or the nurse behind the counter, she said, she closes the door, I'm like, oh shit, I'm in trouble.
Yes.
And, she said, you know it's about profits and not about patients.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Word for word.
Good for her. It's not what you wanna hear, but I like her
No,
honesty.
I know, but, you know, everybody needs an advocate, and this
Yeah.
document's gonna be even
It's your-
essential.
it is,
Yes.
it really is.
Well, since Senator Hall is here, I have a question because I just found out about this today. In the fall of 2021, Texas Workforce sent out a notice saying nobody in Texas can be forced to be vaccinated with the COVID vaccine. Now I found out today, but by Brian Harrison, it said, did you know the Texas House Calendars Committee chose to keep COVID vaccine mandates and allow unvaccinated Texans to be fired? Do you know if that's true? That is true.
We did not, no. The legislature, too many people said we can't tell businesses what to do. We did stop government from mandates.
Okay,
But not private businesses.
okay, so
Came-
businesses
came
still
close.
can fire us if
Huh?
we don't take the job.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But this variant that's out right now is not as virulent as COVID-19, because all the breakoffs become less and less, you know, potent, if you will. And so, I mean, right now, this variant that's out there right now is no more than a common cold, the symptoms. So why are they treating this variant?
Money.
Because they can. Because they
Money.
can?
Money.
It's
Because of the code.
It's money.
And what they get.
Yeah, what,
reimbursed.
right.
I've seen the Fair House documents.
Every
Yes.
doctor I've talked to about it said it's just
I'm an
treat it like
insurance
a cold.
Yeah.
Hydroxychloroquine still a
Yes.
good prophylactic. Sure. Quercetin.
Sorry, let me get this one way back here.
I'm sorry, if this is done, but I don't understand how you get you go to the post office, and then how do you get it to the courier? I don't
Yeah,
understand that.
you're in the hospital, so you pick up your phone, because you should go to always take your phone with you, and you're gonna call a friend, you already had a prior conversation, like, say the gentleman in the green shirt's your friend, and you already talked to him about it, and you say, what is your name? Wayne, I'm in the hospital, I'm at this ABC Medical, could you please do me that favor and send it, you're gonna need help from the outside.
Right, and what is that person going to do?
They're gonna send it-
to the post office?
Yes,
They're gonna
yes,
send
yes.
it to the post, they're gonna use the US Postal Service and send it certified mail, return receipt requested, so they have the receipts, right? And they're gonna send it to the CEO of the hospital.
Yeah, and how do you
I only charge $75.
I'm sorry?
I only charge $75.
Yeah, and he's pretty sweet.
The
You might
post
wanna get-
office knows, you do both.
You do both.
Both.
Do both, because one's faster than the other.
And couriers come to the hospital all the time. I
Yes.
used to work at BK freestanding.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
get
Did I answer
three-
your
We get
question?
3
Oh,
couriers
tell me
a
again.
day at that rate.
I think I know what she wants.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
when
You
you
answer.
go to the postal service and you tell them, I need priority mailer with signature receipt. They're gonna know exactly what you're talking about. They're gonna give you an envelope, and they're gonna mail it, and you're done after that.
Well, the legal courier is what she wants to know.
Yes.
That step, so.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So-
How does the legal courier get the certified mail?
You're gonna,
You're
no,
gonna-
they don't. That, you're using two delivery
You're mixing
services.
the
One-
two.
Yeah, you're conflating the two.
Yeah.
One, it'd be like saying Pony Express, how does the Pony Express get the?
Right.
So, yeah, it's the.
Both or either or?
It's
you
both.
add- Do both.
Both.
Do both.
Yeah, and so the legal courier service, you're gonna find one in your area, and you're gonna get the documents to them. You're gonna tell them, I want a signature upon delivery. They're gonna get that signature. They're gonna give that signature back to the person who paid for it and ordered it. Okay.
You're
Okay.
welcome, sorry, I didn't.
I think there's somebody over. Yes, this lady over here.
Okay. If you're talking to the doctor, I know you've got the mail going when you call your
Yeah.
friend. What are the key words to get that doctor's attention?
This is my written informed consent.
Okay.
Yeah, and if they are like, I don't want to
I-
hear it.
yeah, whatever.
Then you bring up it's
It's being sent.
delivered.
Yeah, it'll be in the electronic medical records in about an hour.
Yes, legally delivered, certified,
Yeah.
mailed. You're being served, just like divorce papers. You're
Yeah.
being served. You
Right.
know. So
And
that's going to.
Isn't that really expensive? Like a really, no, it's
about
about
$40.
30, 40 bucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
What,
Okay.
get divorced?
No, not that one.
Several thousand times more.
I think it was this lady that was next. Yes.
How much past all of your written down stuff can this go? For example, if the American Blood Bank, according to them, can't be a designated donor for someone, example of, if you go in X amount of time after you've had a cold, you get a false positive hepatitis C, when they test your blood, and so then that throws you out of your ability to be a designated donor, can that get around it?
I don't understand. That.
Yeah, I'm not really understanding. You're trying to get around the blood transfusion thing? Is that what
Yeah.
to be a donor?
Having designating someone to be a donor who is O negative,
Mhm.
but they have been tossed out of the ability to do that by the AABB because of a false
Oh.
hepatitis C, which is one of the things you test.
I don't know, I'm just a comedian. Ask her.
I mean, you know.
I'm a blood banker.
Oh, there you go.
I don't think it would work to use this. What would be good, though, is to go back in and get that hepatitis.
They won't do it.
They won't.
They won't do it.
They used to let you designate a donor. And now they're getting away from that because they want to give you that vaccinated
Yes.
blood. It's horrible.
Yeah,
what
it's a
they're
way to
doing.
vaccinate them, huh?
They're changing all the laws.
Yeah.
They changed the definition of vaccine. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Say that again?
The definition for vaccine was changed. I found it on the Wayback Machine when they did it. So,
So, do you know what the original was and what they changed it to?
it used to be giving you a live or attenuated virus.
For immunity, and now I think it just says to elicit an antibody response.
Yeah.
which
To,
can
to
be
lessen
effective
symptoms now.
Right.
Before it was prevention, the preventing the spread and all that stuff. Now it's just, well, you won't get as sick.
On your form, you recommend the pneumococcal vaccine not be given. You know, a lot of times if you're over 50 years of age and you go in to see your primary care doctor, they oftentimes give you together the shingles vaccine and the pneumococcal vaccine.
Now, this is for,
But I'm just wondering, the pneumococcal, why is it y'all are against that?
Well, you can choose whatever you
yeah,
want.
I can't stress
But-
this enough.
Because I don't know any data that I've read that says.
We're not trying to sway anybody to do
Yeah.
anything.
'Cause
It's just on there
When I
as,
saw that, I'm like, okay, well, I wish I'd known this 3 years ago. Is there something I don't know?
Yeah, there is.
everybody do their own research.
Yeah, there is
They
documentation
are
out there.
changing a lot of vaccines and they're using the mRNA on other vaccines.
If you get
Blink
the-
it, no.
If you get the book Turtles all the way down, you'll never get another vaccine
And-
again. I
and
promise.
what's it called?
Turtles all the way down. I promise you, you'll never get another
And
vaccine.
they changed the vaccine 17-18 flu season. They used to grow it on eggs, remember that? Okay, now they grow it on dog kidneys. It's a cell-based vaccine and they probably.
I mean, I like
who
dogs,
knows
but-
what they put in there.
I like kittens too.
Yeah, and also, since, another good resource is, one that we recently spoke in their church.
Yeah, Larry, gosh, how's his last
I
name?
can't pronounce his last name, but, he's on our Pastors of Power page, and,
He's out in Orange County, California.
Yeah, he's got tons of data.
Yes.
He works with a lot of doctors. He's been doing this for, 30 years, nutritionist, pastor, all that good stuff. He will tell you the facts.
He'll tell you the truth, and he'll lose like
Since-
90% of his
Since
congregants.
1969, there is no vaccine that has not used an aborted fetal cell.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of them have
Dead
it.
babies.
No, that's not true, that's not true. Most of them are grown on aborted fetal tissue cell lines, but not all of them.
He's
Many
got
of them
data.
are, but not all of them.
But he has the data that shows every single one of them.
Yeah.
Even the ones that you think are not, they've manipulated it to make you believe that, oh, it's not. It is. It is.
Yeah.
And if you get his data, I wish I brought it,
Yeah.
you would see.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, what's the, and you may have covered this, the protocol for an advocate being with you, or in case of an emergency, and you had to go to the hospital with some sort of emergency,
Yes.
up to and including ICU, what is the protocol, patient's rights, to have someone right there with you?
I think we have a perfect person.
Yeah, the bill was specifically written to say religious counselor. And so, if you've ever talked to anybody about your religion, you're a religious counselor. We changed it from
He's brilliant.
rabbi, priest, pastor to religious counselor.
Love it.
So, if you go to church, you're a counselor.
So that has
If
to
you
be-
aren't, you ought to be.
So if you state that,
Yeah.
the law says you're
Yeah,
allowed to
yeah,
have.
yeah.
Yes,
You-
it's
you
the
can
law.
identify- You don't need to identify your spouse or anybody. It's whoever that is available to see you.
You're it.
What we run into is the hospitals get around it. They'll say, okay, you can have your counselor there. Let's see, it's 2 o'clock, you've got till 2:15 to visit. They started limiting to get around it. We'll fix that next session.
Nice,
So
thank
so
you.
they can still limit the time.
Yeah, they,
So in the case of ICU, they could probably even say no.
well,
They can?
ICUs are a little bit different. The intent was everywhere in the hospital, they were allowing no visitors at all.
Right.
And that was bad. And so we're trying to get it so you can get at least that one person in there to watch what was happening for them.
Yeah.
It's an
And what we
improvement.
got was religious counselor, which
Yes.
would encompass everybody.
But-
Didn't anticipate the hospitals would find a way
So
to get around it.
your spouse could be
Yeah.
your
Yes.
religious counselor.
Right.
But we've also seen,
Anybody who's coming to see you.
right,
you say is your religious counselor.
Whoever will show up.
yeah. But we've also seen hospitals actually bump people up to ICU that are fine. They're eating breakfast, they're reading the newspaper, and they're like, well, you need to go to ICU. For what? Oh, so we can monitor you better.
Yeah. I had,
Actually, they can bill more.
Yeah,
Yes,
and bill more.
yes.
That's why.
But yeah, they can bill more, but the whole thing is monitor you better, especially if you've got COVID on there. But that also would probably try to block anybody from coming in, so.
I had a woman that I was helping in Washington State who was practically sitting up doing Sudoku in bed. And I'm talking to the doctor's recommending, it was an open line with the family, for hospice. She had just gotten there. She just needed a little oxygen.
She's fine.
Yeah, she's fine. Now, let me take it to the day she's leaving. This is why it's kind of important. Also, a little tip is don't tell
Don't
them
tell 'em
when you
you're
want to
leaving.
leave. Just leave. She said, I want to, leave in the morning. Okay, yeah, we'll release you in the morning. What they start the last day the last hour that she was there, they started running a very toxic antibiotic through her line. And yes, and she didn't ask for it. They didn't tell her they were doing that.
She took a turn for the worse.
Yeah,
I've
they
heard
always
so
do
many
that over
stories.
weekends.
Yeah, they take a
And-
turn for the worse.
And
at
overnight,
night.
yeah.
And what about the discharge papers that they sent to your house after that, or like if you just
Usually-
get up and
Well, they'll tell you can't leave.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
you can.
93-year-old woman, do you remember that? Who just celebrated her 75th wedding anniversary? When she left, because she had started pulling wires off and realized, I am in danger, nobody's coming. Alarms are going off when you do that. Nobody came to her room. over 20, 30 minutes. So what she do, she calls her family, get me out of here. They get a wheelchair, their own wheelchair, put her in it, wheel her past a bunch of people in the hallway that never asked, is there anything, are you okay? Is there anything we can do for you? She gets home, and guess who shows up at her door? About 20 minutes later, the police. They called the police in retaliation on her, so, well, just to harass her. I said, you don't have to answer the door. Have you broken any laws? Are you a carjacker?
Nope, don't answer the
So
door.
she didn't answer her door. They went away. Then the hospital calls about 10 minutes later and says, oh, hey, we see that you've left.
Won't you come back?
We would really like you to come back so we can help you get that port out. They didn't even assist her getting a port out. So she disconnected herself, but she still had that piece in her body. Okay, this is what people are up against, and the police was just retaliation. There was no reason other than to harass her and scare this poor woman. But then we had to think ahead. Oh my gosh, she may be called into, they may try to retaliate, take it up a notch. Our advocacy doesn't stop there. It's gaming it out. What's the next danger? The next danger is elder abuse. And so we said, get online right now, go get you some, because she was only being released like 8 hours earlier than they would have discharged her, but just to make a point, they sent the police out and were harassing her. So we said, get an online scheduler like Calendly, go into a couple of doctors, see which one you can get an appointment tomorrow with a cardiologist, with your family doctor. Get checked out, get the all clear.
Clean bill
And
of
she
health.
did that. They said, everything's great.
Yeah, what they'll record in your record when you do that, when you leave, is against medical advice.
Yeah, that's what AMA.
And prior to COVID, I worked at the ER, people used to do it all the time.
Yeah.
But they try to scare you. They say you
Yeah.
can't leave.
Yeah.
We were she was on the phone with a doctor. Says you cannot leave. Oh yes, you can. AMA.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can leave AMA. But they use those acronyms to scare you with.
Because they want their 600 grand.
Right.
What's that?
Because they want their 600 grand.
Yes, they
Yeah,
can't let that,
exactly.
they can't have that Rolls Royce walking.
Go ahead.
Tackle them, get them back in here.
I know you said you know nothing about minors, but you have kids. What, have you done anything? Do you have any direction to point me?
I keep them as healthy as possible.
Okay.
My daughter actually broke both of her bones in an ATV accident during COVID. We went to one hospital, and they had a line. They weren't even letting people in the ER. And my husband, we've gone to a little ER to get stabilized because we had to drive. We drove an hour, me holding her leg together. And then we had to drive another hour with it stabilized from the tiny ER to Houston. And they had sent all the medical records to, I think it was Memorial Hospital. And I looked at that hospital. All these patients are lined outside, sick. There's one patient inside the ER, this giant room. Everybody's masked up. Well, my husband says, my daughter, her leg is broken. She's taller than me. I mean, she was 11 years old, but she's a tall girl. This little Chinese girl comes out with a wheelchair and says, I'm ready. I'm like, what? You are not picking up my daughter. And my husband's like, no, y'all can't come. It's just me. I'm like, no. And so my husband's like, well, we gotta get her here. I said, no, we don't. We're gonna go to Texas Children. It's right up the road. I said, we're not going to this one. Yeah, but they have her documents. I don't care. But they sent them here. I don't care. We're not going to this hospital. And we're having this argument. I take the door and I slam it. Get in the truck. I'm her mother. We're going. I know you're her father, but I'm telling you, we're not going here. It's just, everything screamed at me. God will tell you. He will tell you you're not supposed to be here. We go to Texas Children. My husband goes out. When he comes back, there are 3 doctors and 4 nurses and a gurney. And I said, what is happening here? They were there for her. They
Yeah,
were
and
all
that's a
there for
good
her.
lesson right there, is
I
that
stayed
just because
with
you
her.
started in one direction, don't let like ego or fear keep you there.
Yeah.
Walk back out.
It's not a marriage.
It's not a marriage. Yes, you
Yeah.
can break up.
Yeah, you can break up at that
you
hospital.
you can date another hospital. It's okay. You're not cheating on this one.
It's still mandated by the a Texas public schools that the children get vaccinated where, all the, the polio and.
My daughter's vaccine exempt. You can send out a form.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. You can get a form from the state.
Yeah.
Oh, you
And,
can?
yes.
Good questions, too.
And
Thank
you
you.
can refuse it all, religious exemption and
We
that.
have conscientious religious and medical exemption because of Don Richardson of NBIC. You have to call the health department, get the form, and sign that. You can, and we found out, because I have a friend in Houston, the school boards have to post it on their website, that the parents can opt out, and she found that her school, Spring Branch, didn't, and so she's creating and getting that done, and they are
Yes.
all acting like, because she's getting these letters that they say her daughter's to be vaccinated, but you don't have to.
You don't have to.
For public school, private schools can do whatever they want, but public schools do not.
Yeah.
You'll still get harassed by the doctors at ERs and hospitals about it. Like, you go in for a cough and they're like, I'm
Yes.
vaccinated, it has nothing to do with this, why are you doing
Yeah.
this?
You're good.
Sadly,
You have a
that's
medical
true.
exemption, they still harass you, it's harassment, harassment, harassment.
Yes,
The
that's
last
true.
thing I wanna say
But
is
you're
when
alive.
When you fill out your
Are you,
allergies,
is that for us?
say that you are allergic to any and all vaccines, never ever give a vaccine. Every time they ask you what you're allergic to, say any and all vaccines. Document everything, and
Scott?
document that you go into anaphylaxis.
Speaking of being allergic, the last thing on your last slide says, just a show of hands, who remembers what the
Oh,
patient was
that-
allergic to in the skit?
That
Oh,
was
that's
our-
an old one.
That was our last skit.
That was our
we
last
did.
skit.
Yeah, we didn't.
To see if people are paying attention.
Well, in the form, you're right, it was latex. So I think we should probably wrap it up.
Yeah.
Right
Yes.
now, Jennifer's here, so anybody that just wanna get it signed, let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys wanna stay and ask questions, there are a bunch of us that do wanna wrap it
Yes.
up, so that we can all get out of here.
We didn't even do
Some of
the
us
short
haven't
thing.
had dinner yet.
That's okay. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
ladies.
For having us.
Thank
Thank you.
Good, and we'll note that. It's a team of three.